We have a quorum here today and our participants in attendance. There's this portion here about the introduction of board members. We don't have any new board members to introduce tonight. So unless there's objection, we'll move into the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I'd like to state for the record that we are on Tlingit land, and we would like to acknowledge and give honor and respect to the traditional landowners, the Tlingit elders, and past, present, and future generations. We honor the relationships that exist between the Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian peoples. Next part of our meeting tonight is the approval of the agenda, and I think that we have a request to adjust the agenda.
Yes, if we could, if the board agrees, if we could move item 10, which is the presentation of adult and technical services, to before number 9 reports.
We'll hear from staff Lisa Pearson before we do other reports. Is there any objection to changing the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will move item 9 prior to, item 10 prior to item 9. Is there any other changes or adjustments to the agenda? All right, seeing none, can we ask for a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended. Second.
Moved and seconded. When you're ready, Pat, we'll call the roll to approve the agenda as amended.
Let's see, am I here? Okay. Let's see. Dahl,
Yes.
Finnegan,
Present.
Govars,
Yes.
Hops,
Yes.
Liljegren,
Here.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Pilgrim,
Yes.
Arntzen.
Yes.
Awesome. The yeas have it.
I want to just double check with you, Director Pat, and make sure that since we didn't call roll call, is that something you would like to do for the record, or do you feel like you have everybody's attendance marked already?
I think we have everybody's attendance.
Okay,
marked,
thank
so we're
you.
good.
Awesome. All right, we'll go into the next item on the agenda is the approval of the July 9th, 2025 meeting minutes. A motion would be
I'll
great.
move to approve the minutes from the Wednesday, July 9th quarterly meeting.
By Montgomery, seconded by Hops. Just a clerical note that the minutes mention agenda. So I think that will be corrected.
We will correct that.
From agenda to statement of minutes. Is there any other changes or discussion points for the agenda, or excuse me, for the meeting minutes? All right, when you're ready, Pat, we'll call the roll for approval of the meeting.
Finnegan,
Yes.
Govars.
Pass.
Okay.
Or abstain.
Ah, okay.
I wasn't here.
Hops,
Yes.
Liljegren,
Aye.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Pilgrim,
Yes.
Arntzen,
Yes.
Dahl.
Yes.
Okay, the ayes have it.
All right, and we do have a couple items that were laid on the table prior to tonight's meeting. Do you want to speak to those 2 items, Pat?
Sure. Let's see. So the 2 items, let's see if I can find them now. One is a portion of a spreadsheet that goes into more detail about the capital request to migrate to a new system in 2026. So it goes into more detail about how we came up with the $53,000 figure for the one-time cost of that migration, and just how we kind of came up with the request that we made. So that was one. And then the other one has to do with I think the last item on the agenda, Yes, it is new business C, which is a proposed change of a one-year term for the teen representative to go from July until June to better correspond with the school year rather than the March through March current term, which corresponds to what most board members their terms are. So.
Thank you. And as we get to those items, if people need more time to review those papers, just let us know or let me know. Is there any other correspondence for the meeting tonight?
Yep.
So we'll go into the public comment period of the meeting. Anyone in the audience wishes to speak to the advisory board, now's your chance to come forward and let us hear what you have to say.
You know you're fun, right?
Do
it. They have opinions.
Seeing no one rise and come to the podium, we'll go ahead and close the public comment period. And like to welcome our library adult and technical services presenter tonight, Lisa Pierce.
Thank you very much for accommodating my request to bump it up a little bit in the agenda. We actually have a library program, 2 library programs going on right now. So I would like to be able to go back up before the library closes to help supervise cleanup and things like that. So. Okay. So thank you very much. My name is.
I'm so sorry. Could you just tilt that mic a little closer to you? That'd be great.
How's that?
Thank you.
Okay. My name is Lisa Pearson. I'm the Adult Services Librarian for the Ketchikan Public Library, and I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you about what the Adult Services Division does at the library and my role specifically. I moved to Ketchikan in 1988 with my parents and my sister. Originally, I was planning on being a science teacher, but after a couple of years of teaching at UAS, I realized that that wasn't enough to pay for raising a family. So I went to the library to see about being a library substitute. And fortunately, they were hiring for a library assistant 1. So on Valentine's Day, 1999, I became part of the library staff. And so for the last 26 and a half years, I've done various jobs at the library. I've been a library assistant 1 doing mending and processing. I've been a library assistant 2 doing interlibrary loans and designing the website, which was a couple of iterations back from the one that we have now. And then in 2006, my predecessor, Bridget Stearns, had left to pursue a career in nursing. So I became the adult services librarian. I had a semester of library school under my belt, so I really appreciate Judith McQuarrie giving me the opportunity to have the job while I was pursuing my degree. I finished that up in 2009 and been doing various things for the Adult Services Division since then. A couple of the big highlights for me have been moving into the new library building in 2013. The change in the floor plan between the old library building and the new has really expanded the opportunities for the Adult Services Division, both in materials and in programming. And then in June of 2016, our previous library director, Linda Leishaw, resigned. So I became acting library director until Pat came on in January of 2017. So I had the opportunity to compile and file the annual state library report, to file the funding request for the E-rate discount for our telecommunications with the FCC, and also to compile the annual budget, including the adult services, operations and maintenance for the building for City Libraries Consortium, and present that to the council as well. I'm glad I had the opportunity to do those things because it showed me that I do not have the inclination or the temperament to be the library director. And I am so happy that Pat is here to take that on. So it was a good opportunity, but I'm very, very happy where I am right now. So my big job is collection development, and it's always been my job since I became adult services librarian. It involved various different pieces. The first one, of course, being budgeting. We provide funding, or the city council provides funding for a variety of library materials. And then in administering that budget, I have to take into account various things like inflation, supply chain issues, and various format changes over the years. For instance, we found out at the beginning of the week that our major book distributor, Baker and Taylor, that we have been purchasing books and bibliographic records and barcodes and security and processing from decades to decades, just suddenly went bankrupt and closed their doors and is still gone. So that's one of the things that we're going to have to take into account moving into the future, trying to find a substitute to get those library materials and processing from. The other thing too with budgeting is that the budget has changed over the years. So my book budget, for example, between 2011 and 2024 has decreased 31%, but inflation has gone up 9%. So my actual purchasing power for books has gone down 35% since 2011. So part of collection development is trying to keep an eye on things like that and try and buy as many materials as I can with the budget that I have.
Can I just ask you to repeat those numbers?
Oh,
I
I'm
just want
sorry.
to jot them down.
Oh,
I
yeah,
can catch them on the fly.
sorry, 9% increase in the average cost of a book in the between 2011 and 2024.
That was the increase. And what was the
Yes.
decrease in the book buying budget?
It was
31%?
a 32% increase, so from 56,000 to 38,000.
Decrease.
Decrease.
Decrease, sorry.
Thank you.
So then part of my collection development is selection. So I use a variety of materials for selecting books. I use various book review journals. I pay attention to author reviews, to news reports, to list the best books, things like that. I also pay attention to patron requests. So a lot of times if a patron has a favorite author, they are very in tune to when that author has new books coming up, or if an author is releasing a different series, then so that I can follow those patron requests. I also use my experience working at the library, just seeing what circulates well in the community and what doesn't. Just because something gets a really good review in a book review journal does not mean it's going to circulate in Ketchikan. And by the same token, something that is completely overlooked in a book review journal is going to be super popular. So I have to kind of think about the community that I'm serving when I purchase materials. And a lot of that is just the 26 years experience. And then once the books arrive, then I have to catalog them. So all of the books, the DVDs, the CDs, the playaways, the puzzles, the games, those all get cataloged. Part of that is cleaning up their bibliographic records that we receive. But part of that is also determining where in the collection they might go. It's easy for the fiction because we shelve everything alphabetically by the author, but for the nonfiction, we have to determine what the call number is going to be. So if I have a book where half of it's talking about growing vegetables and the other half is the recipes of how to cook those vegetables that you have grown, I have to figure out, do I put it in my gardening section or do I put it in my cooking section? And so again, part of that is just the experience with the patron base that we have and knowing which section is more popular, or looking at the book and thinking, okay, who is going to be checking this book out and where are they going to look for it? So a lot of it, when I purchase a book and when I catalog a book, a lot of times I have a specific patron in mind. You know, I can picture somebody checking that book out. So that's part of, you know, having worked with the patrons for so many years. And then the next step is marketing. So once the books are on the shelf, I have to promote the books and make sure that everybody knows that they're there. We do have specific sections for our new books that patrons know to browse through for the new materials. But we also do things like book displays. We do bibliographies for certain topics, like Indigenous authors, or books about the sea, or books about dealing with trauma. We also do outreach events. So for instance, I'm going to be at the Philam Festival on Saturday, and I'm going to have a collection of various fiction and nonfiction books by Filipino authors, just to kind of highlight that aspect of the library collections. And then we do some social marketing, media marketing as well. We've been doing a campaign during September, really promoting our Frigo Plus online music streaming resource. So new songs and new albums that get released on Freegal every week, and so we've been promoting those through social media. So all of that is to kind of highlight the various articles that we're purchasing for the library. And then the next step is statistics, so I need to see what's happening with the books that I'm purchasing, with the materials I'm purchasing, because that helps drive my purchasing decisions down the road. So checkouts obviously is the easiest way to do that, but I also look at in-house. So those are materials that people look at in the library that don't necessarily bring home. So they might be big picture books that they don't want to lug out to their car. They might be reference materials. They might be just sitting and browsing through magazines while they wait for their kid to get out of swim lessons. So all of that information I compile as well. I also pay attention to genre trends. So when I first started doing this job, Westerns were really big. But in the last 20 years, that demographic of people who really enjoyed Westerns has aged to the point where they're not reading very many Westerns, and frankly, they're not publishing very many Westerns. But romantic fantasy is really, really big right now. So there's a lot of romantasy that I am buying because that's what's hot in fiction. I also look at format changes. So over the past decade or so, the number of DVDs and music CDs that we check out have been steadily declining. As soon as people started getting iPods and then iPhones and Spotify, people have started streaming music rather than listening to CDs. Most people don't even have CDs. They don't come in your car anymore. So we don't even purchase music CDs. It's all streaming now. So I have to pay attention to format changes when I'm looking at collection development as well. And then the final step of collection development is weeding, because the library is full. I don't have room on my shelves for anything else unless I make room. So every book I buy, I have to get rid of a book. So I use a variety of criteria to make those decisions. The first being, of course, its currency. So especially in the nonfiction collection, things like travel, medical, legal, building codes, interior design, all of that needs to be really current because nobody wants to read a medical textbook from 1982. They want stuff that's valuable information. So that kind of thing gets weeded. I look at whether or not it's checking out. I look at whether or not the condition of the material is just, it's starting to fall apart. It's getting really grubby. Sometimes I weed it. Sometimes I replace it with a newer edition that looks nicer. And I also look at what the cover looks like. So you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but everybody judges books by their cover. It looks like it was published in 1995 and no one's going to check it out. So if there are classics that I think belong in the collection, regardless of how old they are, I get new editions. And when I get new editions, they check out because people see them on the shelf and they go, oh, that looks really cool. If it's something like interior decorating or sewing or something like that, then I can just go ahead and replace it with a newer one that looks more modern. And I also pay attention to trends. So there are fiction trends, there are also nonfiction trends. So for instance, in cooking, for a while it was vegan cooking, and then it was gluten-free, and then it was raw foods, and then it was sous vide, and now it's Instant Pot. And so, you know, when I know that a trend has passed and people aren't doing raw food anymore, I can remove the raw food books to make room for the Instant Pot books. So those are some of the decisions that I use when I'm making my reading lists. And I go through periodically during the course of the year to do a week. So the other big part of my job is programming, and this is relatively new because we did not really program in the old building because there was no space to do programming in the old building. So in fact, anytime we had to do a program, if we had an author visit, we had to go downstairs into the children's library and actually roll all of the bookshelves up against the wall to make room for people to sit. So before we moved up to the library, we would do like 36 adult programs a year. Now we're doing over 200 a year. We've had an over 500% increase in the amount of programming that we do now that we are in the new building. And programming is absolutely part of the library's mission. So we're supposed to provide educational, entertainment, and informative resources for the community. They might be physical resources, they might be digital resources, they might be experiential resources, and that's what programming is. And so in order to do the programming, we have to look at a variety of different factors when we decide what we can do. Part of it is community interest. Community wants active programming. When we first got into the library, the Alaska State Library had a grant program called Online Libraries. And so they gave us video conferencing equipment. They provided us free video conferencing services. We could hook up live with like a zoo in Cleveland or a museum in New York. People hated that. Nobody wanted to come to the library and sit in front of a screen and watch somebody talk at them, even if they had the opportunity to ask questions at the end. People hated that. So they want active programming where it's in the building where they're doing something. It might be like a local interest thing, or it might be a local group. Alaskan authors are huge. People love anything that has to do with Alaska, with being outdoors, with living in Alaska and Ketchikan. So those kind of programs are really popular. We also try to put a lot of social aspect into our programs. So right now we're doing a series called Craft and Connect. And it's not just about coming in and learning a craft technique. It's about getting the opportunity to socialize with other crafters and getting an opportunity to talk with people and meet people and just be with other people. So that social aspect is really important as well. And then of course, people like educational programs because they like coming away from the program thinking that they have learned something that they can take home and apply to their daily lives. So the Ketchikan Community Gardens, when they come in and they talk about how to prune your trees or how to grow strawberries, people love programs like that. We do have to take into account the cost of programming, and it's not just the financial cost, it's the cost in terms of time and money and energy. We've done a couple of huge programs in conjunction with the Children's Library. We've done Harry Potter Day, we've done Star Wars Day, we did Geek Fest. Geek Fest was hugely successful. We had 300 people come to Geek Fest, but it took weeks and weeks of time. It was exhausting. It took over the entire building. So as much as we loved doing it and as popular as it was, that's not something that we can do on a monthly basis. So we do have to take into account that whole, we only have so many hours, we only have so much energy when we design our programming. One way to compensate for that is to take advantage of the skills and the knowledge of the people that are in the community. So we do yoga twice a week. We have volunteer yoga instructors. We do chess club every Saturday. We have a chess expert who comes in and teaches chess classes. Ketchikan Community Gardens brings in landscape gardeners to teach things. We use the skills and the knowledge of the people that are in the community who are willing to share information to do our programs, as well as the skills of our various staff members. So for instance, Gail and Shauna are both very experienced crafters. They've done some really wonderful craft programming because they have a particular skill with that. I am not a crafter. I could not teach those classes. So the other thing too is we do a lot of community partnerships. So right now, Courageous Conversations is doing a workshop to help people fill out advanced care directives, power of attorney, living will, that kind of thing. At the exact same time, the Ketchikan Wellness Coalition and Ketchikan Kapamilya is doing Kabayan Kids Night Out. So they are coming and teaching kids about Filipino culture and community. And so those partnerships allow us to provide a diverse range of programming with the skills that those organizations bring, and then with our assistance. And so that helps with the programming as well. And then the final thing is being flexible. I don't think I've ever paid to bring an author to Ketchikan because we are on the cruise ship route. And so all I need is I just need to be flexible enough so that when I get a call from a publisher or an author that says, I'm going to be in town in July, here's the date my ship is in, can I do a presentation at the library, that I try to make it work. So we had a creative writing professor from the Caribbean come and do a writing class because she was visiting her sister. We had a professional storyteller talk about the Chesapeake because he was in town visiting his daughter. So all of these programs that we have been able to offer completely free because we are able to be flexible with our schedule and our scheduling of our rooms so that we can accommodate people. Yesterday we had Island Music come and bring the Whitewater Trio, 3 classical musicians who not only performed a little concert, but they also talked about how they compose music, how they improvise music. And so it's a really educational program that we were able to do because when the Ketchikan Area Arts and Humanities Council called us up and talked to us about it, we were like, yeah, we want to be part of that. So that's how we were able to put on our programming. Once we've got the programming all set up, then of course we have to market it so that people know we're doing the programming. And it used to be 26 years ago, all you had to do was put up a poster and everybody knew to look for the posters. But now, of course, it's kind of scattershot marketing. So when we do a program, I make a poster and I post on Facebook and Instagram. And if it's a big thing, I do a PSA on the radio and I write a little blurb that goes out on email. And it goes to the daily news and it goes to the local paper and we make bookmarks and brochures and do a display. And so there's so much time and energy that also goes into marketing so that people know the services and the programs that we have to offer. I'm also responsible for doing the hiring, supervision, and training of the adult services staff. I am so fortunate to have Gail Brooks and Shauna Carter on my staff. They have been with the library for years. They are experienced, they are knowledgeable, and they are dedicated to library services. So my being able to rely on them has been wonderful. We also have a couple of new staff people in the adult services division. We have Danilo and we have Debbie Carlick, both of whom are young, they're enthusiastic, and it's been wonderful mentoring them and hearing their ideas and perspectives and suggestions for the library as a whole. We do have a slate of library substitutes. We're open 7 days a week. And if somebody gets sick, if somebody has a medical emergency, if somebody wants to go on vacation, we need to be open to the public. So we have a list of people that we can call to come in and cover for a few hours. A lot of retirees that are looking for just a little something to do. And so it's been really wonderful having them that we can call on so that we can continue to provide the same level of service to the public, even if we have staff people who are out for whatever reason. And then there's a kind of et cetera, under user sign. So part of that is troubleshooting technology. So it might be patron technology. Someone might need help putting the Libby app on their phone or printing from their email or connecting to our wireless. And so I help with that. I also help troubleshoot library computer problems. So if our library database is not indexing properly, if the reports aren't working right, if the wireless isn't working, so I try and figure it out. I am not an IT person. But so if I can't figure it out, I will file a trouble ticket with the IT people who do know what they're doing. But I'm kind of like the first line of defense. I do work the circulation desk and answer phones because I don't think you can work in a library and not interact with the patrons, because you can't know your job if you don't interact with the patrons. So every day I make sure that I'm having the opportunity to talk with people and find out what are they checking out, what do they want more of, what are they happy about. I also do reference services, especially things that are a little more complicated, genealogy, Alaska history, government issues. Large part of that is just because I've been working there long enough, I kind of know where everything is. Like the crusty bookstore owner with like piles and piles of books and they know where everything is and nobody else does. That's kind of me. And then I also compile statistics and reports, mostly for adult services, but I also do the circulation statistics for the entire library. I do the organization and supervision of our annual inventory that we do in February, and I communicate with patrons. Part of that might be outreach events like going to Coast Guard Welcome Night. Part of it might be answering questions about library policies or procedures. It might be getting patron suggestions. You should do this program, you should get this book. And part of it might be complaints. I'm not happy about this, or I think this should change. So, we're a public service that we serve the community. And so a large part of my job is making sure that I am available to speak with the public and to hear what they have to say. And then I don't feel like I should be old enough to be the institutional memory, but I'm kind of the institutional memory just because I've been there long enough. So if somebody has a question about why do we do this or when did this start, then usually I'm the one who can dig through my emails or my files and say, oh, this is why we do this. And so that's part of my job as well. And I just wanted to finish with some photos of the old library. And I know that a lot of people say they miss the old library and it had a beautiful view of the waterfall. But I will say, as a librarian, from a professional library standpoint, that building was horrible. The stacks were too high, the aisles were too narrow, there was nowhere to sit, there was nowhere to program. The windows didn't work, the wireless didn't work. And I am so grateful every day that I walk into that library building on Copper Ridge and I see the beautiful architecture and the beautiful view and all of the people doing all of the different activities that they can in that flexible, inventive space. And it makes such a difference to be able to do my job in that beautiful building. So, thank you very much. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions?
I just have one. How much longer are your books staying on the shelves now? Since I assume there's less turnover because you can't buy as many books, or is that not true?
It's not really, well, I don't think that they stay on any longer. It's just that I have to be a lot more selective of what I buy.
Okay.
And one of the ways I do that is I do not buy multiple copies. If somebody wants a James Patterson, they're gonna have to wait because I can't afford to buy 3 copies of James Patterson.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Nina?
This is just a compliment to Lisa, and I think I've told you, I mention this a lot, so I read a lot. And I do all of these reading challenges, and they're like, these are the top 10 books of this month, or this is the top 150 books coming out this year. And I try to like get it through as many as I can. And I, without fail, go into the library, I'm like, there it is, there it is, there it is. And I always can do so much of these reading lists because Lisa's so good at her job of getting books that are the good ones. So yeah, but all the lists, you're on it. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Oh,
Sure.
I just had a question. You said that you have to decide which call number to put on the book. That doesn't come with it?
Well, it does, but
Okay.
I would say 3 out of 4 times, I don't like where they're putting it.
Okay. Okay.
And part of it is because I can say this now because they've
Yeah.
gone bankrupt. They're really lazy about their cataloging.
Yeah.
And they
Okay.
would dump everything in the 921 biography section.
Yeah.
Because that was fast. And it's like, no, I don't have 40
This
shelves
is
of.
sports.
Yeah.
This is that. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. I was thinking, I was like, that is a lot of work. Okay. And then real quick, you did say that you keep track of a lot of things, which is very admirable, but the in-house use, how do you track that? Is that just by what's put back on the carts to go back on the shelves? Or-
Yeah, or
okay.
we find them sitting on the shelves or on the
Okay.
tables and things like that. We just scan the barcodes.
Got it. Okay.
We actually, so I use that a lot when I purchase magazine subscriptions.
Mhm.
And so we had a subscription to Fish Alaska and Hunt Alaska, which I thought this is a natural. And they just were not being used. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'm not gonna buy something that people aren't using. And the next month, I had somebody come in and was really irate that we didn't have that anymore. And I said, well, nobody was reading it. He said, I came in and read it all the time. And I said, well, did you put it in the basket with a big sign that says, please leave it here? And he says, well, no, I just put it back on the shelf. Well, I didn't know you were reading it. So he always, when he comes in, makes sure to put the magazines in the basket so that we can help him.
Didn't know that. I do the same thing he did. Oops.
At the end of the rows, there's baskets on every row.
I had a question with the new materials supplier that you guys are gonna have to look into since that one went bankrupt. Do you think that's gonna be like a spending decrease, increase, just looking at what current costs are with new publishers and materials?
I don't think it's gonna be a cost increase. I think it's gonna be a staff time increase.
Okay.
Because the company that went bankrupt is Baker and Taylor. They have been in business since 1868.
Oh.
They were the 900-pound gorilla when it came to book distribution in public libraries. So there's one other company called Follett, but they only do children's books. And then there's a company called Ingram, which was pretty much just doing it to bookstores. They're starting to get into the library market, I think because they saw that Baker and Taylor was on a path to destruction. So they're starting to offer like a little bit of cataloging, a little bit of processing. They don't do barcodes, they don't do security. And so we, as the staff, are gonna have to start doing the stuff that Baker and Taylor was doing for us. So the actual physical costs aren't gonna be that much different. It's gonna be staff time and effort that's we're gonna be in.
Real quick, what do you mean by security?
Oh, so we have a security system,
Uh-huh.
so that if people try to leave the building with
Okay,
materials.
so the gates. Got it, okay.
Yeah, so there's like little tabs that go in every single item
Yeah,
that we
okay.
set up.
And that, the books come with that?
From
From-
Baker and Taylor,
they
yeah,
do.
they
Okay.
used to.
they did.
Got it.
Yeah.
Follow up on that question then, is this a good time to have that happen then? If you're also looking into
the
replacing
gates.
your
That's-
security
That's what I was getting
gate?
at there.
Oh, they tend to use the same technology. So basically, a new gate will use our existing tabs, security tabs. And a new publisher like vendor like Ingram, they also tend to use those same security tabs because that's what libraries are using all over, and that's what they're asking for. So no, I don't think we'll have to worry about our the tabs we get from a vendor and whether they're going to match our security
Pretty
gates.
standard across the board.
Yes,
Okay.
knock on wood.
And we do buy occasionally from Amazon. If it's something that we couldn't get through Baker and Taylor, the only problem with that is that we have to do the whole bibliographic record, the whole 9 yards. So it's really time intensive. And one of the things that we do is we put the security strips in ourselves. So we do have a bunch of those that we can use until Ingram gets their security stuff off the board.
I have 2 questions, if you don't mind. One is a kind of a funny off the topic question, because I'm just curious, because you do so many different things. What would you say is your number one complaint that you deal with over the last, maybe since COVID, last 5 years?
You mean a complaint from?
Like just in the, like, what do you experience people having some maybe considered negative feedback about?
Usually it has to do with technology. Yeah. I think there's a large number of people that are just done with technology and they are frustrated by technology. And the last few years, we've been using this company called Read Squared to do our reading program. We used to do paper brochures. But then we started doing this because it allowed people to track stuff online and they could do it from home. And for the first year or two, everybody liked it. And then last year, I had so many people who came in and said, can I just please get a paper brochure? Because they did not want to, they specifically said, I don't want to deal with technology. And I think that's the biggest thing since COVID, is that people are just burned out.
That is very insightful and speaking to my heart very, very deeply right now. So on the flip side of that coin, I have to ask, what is the number one accolade or kudos that you hear from patrons?
From the local patrons, it's the programming. From the people who come in from out of town, and cruise ship season is like our feel good time of the year, because it's like I don't pay attention to the mountains because I see them all the time. But when somebody comes to visit and they see the mountains, they're blown away. People don't notice the building and they come in all the time to use the library. But so many people who off the cruise ships come in and say, this is the most beautiful library I have ever seen. One of the musicians, I mean, this is a professional musician who tours around the country all the time. He took photos of everything. He'd never seen a building so beautiful. He never played in a place with a backdrop as beautiful, because we had them up against the big glass windows with the mountains in the back and the sun hitting the trees. And he was amazed by that. And that's what it is. It's just when you walk in the building, it's warm and it's golden and it's comfortable and it's cozy. And, you know, we used to run the fireplace all the time, but we don't have the money to do that anymore. But occasionally the fireplace is on. And so people can curl up with a book in front of a fireplace and it's pouring outside, but it's so nice. And especially in Ketchikan, when you have work and you have home and you have nowhere else to go that's not one of those two places because it's pouring and it's cold and it's dark, to have that, what they call third space to go to where you can just be happy and enjoy yourself and get out of yourself, that's what the library does. And it's free to everybody to do that.
That's really helpful. I appreciate those comments. I have one last thing to ask about. You mentioned you were responsible for the E-rate utility discount.
Oh, just that 1 year.
Oh, just that 1 year. Oh, because that's one of the questions that I have tonight. So is that something that has to be applied for annually? Okay.
God, yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you, Lisa. Any other questions for our adult outreach and technical
some-
services?
Comments that I would have saved, but since you have to leave, I love these presentations. I'll repeat this, but thank you. What you shared is like, oh, I should think about this and going to the library. Like, obviously, I'm on this board, but I really appreciate hearing the nuance of the work you do, and it highlights the things that like we should be paying attention to. And it's adding these to the meetings are really, really insightful. So thank you for the time you took to put that up together, because I know that feels sometimes like, what did I do this for? Really valuable. And to the beauty of the building, I was going to share this at the end too, but I often tour folks from out of town around, and they always look and say, what is that building? And it's just, it is such a spectacular space and such like a place to be proud of for our community. And so I cherish that too, because I always make sure to drive people past in the uphill direction so that they can say, oh, look at that. That's our library. So it's a place to be proud. So thank you for being here.
Right. Thank you, Lisa.
Okay,
Thank you. All right, so we'll back up to our reports portion of our agenda, starting with Nina Hops with Friends of the Library.
Yes, all right. So we had our annual book sale this last weekend. I'm definitely learning a lot of things. I'm newer to the Friends, so I don't know how things always went. I will say we are getting smoother at the whole process. Like the cleanup used to take a while and be a big thing, and I think we were down to less than 30 minutes this time. So I'm like super proud of us. We're getting a well-oiled machine system. I mean, all sales are good. We did well. I think it was a little bit disappointing. And the one thing that I noticed was this year we didn't have as many large donations, because this is our biggest fundraiser where we can actually take donations that we know of. For instance, we had local businesses that would come in and, write us a check and then take as many books they could for their lobby or their hotel or things like that. And as businesses are sold to people off the island, those businesses don't necessarily reinvest in the community and support these programs and these nonprofits. So not having such bigger donations from small businesses was definitely noticeable. But I mean, it's so nice to see people come in and like, oh my gosh, I love this book, or I haven't seen this since I was 10 years old, or, like all these like moments of people like just finding the book for them is really wonderful. And then also knowing that the books are getting a second chance at life, it always feels good. So do you want to add anything, June?
Yes, we have not yet recovered from COVID. I think of the good old days when we baked like $12,000
Yeah.
during those 3 days. We're not doing that anymore. What we have noticed is the in-house book carts at the library are bringing in more money. So I think people are getting used to the idea any day of the week, they can go to the library and buy a book for $1. So that's on the uptick.
Yeah, I think that we're not having like as big of sales. Also donations has been difficult. We had the landslide, we had a bomb scare. So every time we were trying to collect books, like it was getting deferred. So our dates were inconsistent for people to donate to get more books in. I will say that it's been really good quality over quantity. All the books that are coming through, people are really impressed with like the condition and like uniqueness. And we also, this is the first year, we split a little bit. We're going to have a children's book sale on the 18th. which is new because previously all of the books were just, picture books were free. But Amy has been weeding the children's books like Lisa does, and she's got a whole collection for sale. And then we've had some like really nice condition hardbacks. So it's not the leftovers from this book sale that'll be there. It's going to be all new books, but it's just children's, which sometimes kids aren't coming to the mall by themselves to shop, and if the parents don't bring them, they don't have the opportunity. And we're just seeing if it's a different venue, a different demographic of people that will be able to access more books. So I'll know more about that by our Friends of the Library meeting of how that goes, because it's our first year doing it. And yeah, any questions? Yeah.
Is that book sale at the library?
It is at the library. Yep, it's on the 18th, and it's all the books are going to be $1, and you just pay at the front because it's not going to be a manned thing. It's the honor system for books. Yeah. The other thing is we sold a bunch of mugs. We're all out of ornaments, so clearing out some merchandise. Yeah. But there are still mugs at the library if you like a $5 mug.
Yes, we reduced the price.
They are $5 Christmas gifts for everyone. Every boat should have one. Everyone needs to have a mug. And then also this was the first year we haven't done media that we didn't do at the sale too. That was I would say some people noticed, but the same thing. We were getting CDs and video games, out-of-date materials, people's record collections, and though people who would want those weren't showing up to the book sale, and they were just getting thrown away. It was a lot of materials were not getting the home that they needed. So we're now just to books, and I think that it's been less wasteful overall.
What kind of attendance do you guys see at this thing? I mean, are we talking like 80 people, 800 people? I mean, what's the range of human beings walking by your tables?
The mall opens at 9 on Thursday, the first day. The treasurer and I were there at 8 o'clock because if the doors are unlocked and there are books out there, we're going to have people. Thursday started at 8 o'clock and it did not stop all day long. We 2 people were busy. Friday and Saturday it cooled down. Yeah, but yeah, in 2.5 days we see a lot of people. And then, of course, the last afternoon, everything's free.
Got it.
So different group of people.
Do you guys take suggestions from people, or do you have any type of like feedback slip that people, if they show up and they, look through all the tables and they find nothing that they want, is there any way for them to say like, hey,
Well, we're not buying the book. Everything we get is through donations.
Well, I know that.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, if they're like, oh, I'm really interested in these kind of books, if you get some, give me a call next time. Is there any type of like follow-up service to that? Or it's just as
again, like because we're volunteer, like we don't have a record of all the books that were collated, like the titles and stuff. One volunteer is working one Saturday, one volunteer, so they're not going to know the entire collection. It's one of those, it's kind of like a thrift store. You have to show up and look. And then sometimes we run out of tables and the books are below and we have to like put fresh books out. And so like, you got to come the next day too.
Yeah.
And then you got to come because one pile moved slightly and that book that you didn't know you needed was right there. So we have people who come every single day. They'll come Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And they still come back with books. So, I mean, that's part of the magic of it.
And every book is $1?
Every book is $1. Yep. I would say same what Lisa was saying, the trends have changed. When I first started doing it, like people were asking for Westerns like crazy. And our sci-fi section completely sold out last year. Like we didn't have like a single book left. And this year there was 150 titles of Star Trek and nobody bought them. It was 148. Sorry, she counted them. There was 148 books and nobody wanted those on the island, unfortunately.
I do have a couple of anecdotes to that question. A couple of teenage girls came up to the table and said, "Where are your smut books?"
Yes.
I said, we're dependent on donations. I think people who have smut books don't give them away.
Yeah.
So Saturday afternoon, we had just taken the leftovers out to the dumpster and a man came up and said, "I'm with the American Legion. And when our building burned down, our library burned down, where are your military history books?" And we said, "Out in the dumpster." One of the volunteers went out with him. The man crawled in the dumpster and got 2 boxes of books for the American Legion. So we do what we can to keep the customer happy.
Is that something you guys would take into consideration in the future? Maybe before you throw things in the dumpster, maybe?
We reach out to everyone.
Okay.
So we have like people come, that's how the prison actually started with the June's Book Clubs. They said, hey, do you have any extra books? And we said, if you come between 1 and 5, everything's free, load up. And then you started working with them and ended up with a book club there. And we also have at the airport, I don't know, when you guys fly out, there's the shelves, right? Steve from the airport, who doesn't even work there anymore, comes and gets books and and comes gets books and then stores them and brings them and fills that section. So we have, all the free libraries in town. People always have opinions about where these books should go. And I'm like, please reach out and contact us because we can't track down everyone and we don't want to show up and just dump books on people who don't want them.
Got it.
So yeah, they're like churches. I'm like, well, a lot of these books came from churches. Because Holy Name will get rid of their collection. We go and collect all their children's books. So we get a lot of emails of like, hey, do you want these books? And we will go drive and pick them up and put them in our storage unit. In the same going the other direction, like if people need books from 1 to 5 every year in the book sale, the books are free. So
Yeah, several years ago, I wrote 2 different letters. One went to anybody on POW I thought might have a bookcase. And I said, please come to their free time and get all the books you need. I don't know that anybody did that, but I realized a trip over here might be a lot to ask of somebody. I sent a different letter to all of the nonprofits in town that I thought would have a bookcase, saying, please come, bring a wheeled suitcase, take all the free books that you want at that time. I don't know that anybody took me up on it. A lot of effort, and I don't think it really garnered anything.
So like if you know anyone who wants
I will
books,
keep that in mind.
but also it is our fundraiser too. We have people who just wait for the free books. And I mean, that's great, but we also use these funds for the water bottle filler. And Hoopla, that was all friends of the library, and the winter reading program for the adult winter reading program. All those go to that. So it helps. I think we need to advertise that this is a fundraiser more because again, we would get generous donations as opposed to just dollars.
Just a book sale.
Just a book. Exactly.
It makes a difference to
Yeah,
them.
exactly. So
I have a question, not to put more work on your plate, but I've seen some of the ads that you guys have done and it's mostly on social media. That's just where I've seen them on Facebook and such.
Yeah.
I'm curious, do you ever, because you have that children's sale coming up, do you ever provide that information to the schools?
that's a really good idea. 1 second.
Because I've found that those, the principals of those schools, oftentimes they'll put it right in their newsletter for those types of events to share with.
That's a great idea. So I've been fighting with Facebook for 6 months now because I was called an imposter for the Friends of the Library Facebook group, and they kept closing me down. Every time I started, I would put it out, get members, and so we no longer have a Friends of the Library Facebook. So luckily, the library has been posting those dates for us and advertising and then otherwise we wouldn't have a way to contact people or advertise. We did do radio. Nothing in the newspaper because it's expensive. But the radio and then the Facebook for the library. So that's a good idea for newsletters.
Especially because you got that children's book sale coming
And
up.
it is on a Saturday, so schools could.
Yeah, because that was my experience with the Dribblers League
Mhm.
tryouts. Is they were like, email it to me and I'll put it directly in the newsletter. So that was great.
Good idea.
Yeah. Great report. Any other questions for the friends of the library? All right. Jack, do you have any reports from the city council to share?
Not specific to any actions that the council has taken since this board's last quarterly meeting. I think we updated on the change to the ordinance, which is maybe going to come in handy now since we might have to be rescheduling some of these quarterly meetings on Wednesdays. I will note though that in the acting city manager's report at our most recent meeting, she'd made a note about the fact that discussions are ongoing between city staff and borough staff regarding possible new funding mechanisms to the library from the borough. I know from the acting manager's note that those discussions will be continuing into November. And that's all the information I have on those.
As the borough assembly appointee for the board, I would echo what Mr. Finnegan has said about the city council of the borough. That was basically the update that we received as well. Discussions are happening. I want to share a little bit more later on when we get into the budget conversation tonight about, what we're seeing, what I'm seeing from my side of the desk. But ultimately, I just let the Borough Assembly know that this meeting was happening this week, and I don't have any other further formal reports to give back to the board. But if the board has anything they want the Assembly to hear, that's also something that I can help facilitate and do in the future as well. Pat, how's the report on the library?
Yeah, so, got the normal report in your packet. Just one or two things to point out, and then I'll take any questions. In the children, tween and teen section, monthly booktivity programs, have started. They started in September, and this is kind of, I don't want to say story time for younger elementary school students, but that's kind of what it is. It's telling a story and then doing an associated craft. So there was some demand from families who had kind of young elementary school kids, and they kind of wanted a program that was really aimed at them. And so the Children's Library has started these monthly booktivity programs. So far they're pretty popular. I think we've had 2 so far, September and October. So we'll see how those go. We also, after a very, very long hiatus, we finally have, the Rotary Club finally has the outdoor musical instruments on island. So we're going to have to do some work on the children's community garden to move out a couple of the garden boxes. Not all of them. We're still going to have several garden boxes there. But we also have to increase or do an auxiliary slab that is 6 inches deep, because our existing slab is 4 inches deep, and the instruments require for a surface mount, they require a 6 inch at least slab. And we don't want to do anything that's unsafe. And so we're going to contract with the company where the Rotary Club is to do a slab that's off the main slab. Then once that cures, we'll be able to install those instruments. And yeah, it should be really beautiful. It's like 2 flowers, 1 caterpillar, like very hungry caterpillar, and then 2 more flowers. And we may even get a bench there as well. So we're really excited about that. And like I said, it's been in the works for a long time, but it seems like it's actually moving now, which is terrific. Other than that, it's just everything you see on this report. So any questions or anything?
Is that Rotary's paying for all of that?
That's a Rotary project.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions for Pat?
There was Tech Talk last week
Mhm.
by KPU, and that is just a wonderful program for us technically challenged seniors. But I noticed there was a younger person there, but they didn't throw her out. So it's good to see that starting up again.
Absolutely.
And KPU does such a great job, and they're so patient and
Mhm.
understanding. And if somebody comes in with their laptop, their phone, whatever they're having issues with, someone will be one-on-one with them until the problem's solved. And they go very slowly. They don't just say, oh, you do this. So I can't say enough nice about that program.
It's really good. And it's kind of more and more needed as time goes by. Just because technology is getting more complex. There's a greater variety of devices out there. And yeah, it can be really difficult to link those devices to each other and be used effectively. So
They usually start each session with whatever the current scam is, because everybody knows all the, the old people have all the money. So that we're good victims for electronic scams. So that's really helpful.
I'll pass that on.
Yes.
All right, so that wraps up our report for the evening. And so we'll go into unfinished business in our agenda item 11A. The first is to review the draft of the 2026 library budget and recommendations to the city council. I asked for this to be on the agenda, and I appreciate Pat making sure that we had the information that was available to us as part of the packet.
I don't know if you want to start with, do you want to,
Overview?
yeah, do you want to talk about a little
Okay.
bit about the numbers?
Sure. Let's see, so, this looks a lot different. Charlie and I spoke, this afternoon. Hold on just a sec. So, this looks a lot different than the report you got last October. And it's because the city is using a new, budgeting program called ClearGov. And, Sherry will be familiar with ClearGov. And so, when we got the 2026 budget packet, preparing our budget in August, the direction was to come up with a budget for 2026, a draft, and then put it into the ClearGov program. So that's what we did. And so the numbers are not, you'll notice there are some grayed out numbers. These are the personnel numbers and the interdepartmental insurance charges numbers for the most part. That's because finance hasn't had a chance to develop those numbers and get them, so they were not in the program. Our deadline for submitting our draft budget was September 5th. And so I know that finance is working really hard on, getting this budget together in this new program. It's a really spiffy program, but like any new program, it takes getting used to. So anyway, that's why this looks so different. As far as major changes, I have this little, the next little packet is notes on the 2026 library operating budget draft. And in personnel, we don't have the specific numbers yet, but we do know that the IBEW bargaining unit, their negotiation meant that there is a 5% increase in 2026 for bargaining unit member salaries. And so all but 3 full-time library staff are members of that bargaining unit. So I'm not, Lisa isn't, and Amy and youth services is not. But the rest are going to get a 5% increase. There's also going to be like a 10% on average increase in health insurance and other benefits. So that's not something that's reflected here. There's something to keep in mind. And Lisa mentioned this already, but books and periodicals, our budget has gone down over the past several years as costs have gone up. And so we're trying to be very careful about taking any money away from books and other library materials, because that is one of the core pieces of our mission. And so that's just to say that's why those budget lines are pretty flat for our collections. Then going down to travel and training. In 2025, this year, there was really very little in-person conferences that applied to us that were taking place in our area. And so we did not budget much for travel and training. I think we had enough for some webinars that we thought might be useful. However, in 2026, the Alaska Library Association Conference is being held in Sitka, and the Public Library Association Conference is taking place in Minneapolis. And that is a great conference. They always have terrific sessions. It's very focused on public libraries. And so we're estimating, and we've budgeted for a total of 5 library staff members to attend either ACLA or PLA in 2026. So that's why those travel and training numbers have gone up considerably. Let's see, contractual services. I think we'll talk more about the software and equipment maintenance when we talk about the capital expense requests that we've done. But we are looking at getting a new system. We'll say that much for that. Let's see, and then similarly with OCLC, Lisa talked about cataloging, and part of cataloging is going to this system that is an international system that has catalog records for all kinds of materials, being able to select those, download them into our system. It saves us a lot of time, staff time, that we do not have to code each item in a record, which takes an enormous amount of, it's called original cataloging. And that's when you figure out the subject headings and figure out the call number and figure out all the title and other information. Just takes a long time. Much better to download it. That OCLC cost is going up about 5%. Let's see. So contractual services, that's number 6. And this is actually changed just today. So our building maintenance division has requested that the library include $7,500 in the 2026 operating budget to repair or replace the library's gutters and to install snow stops. So we just got a call from building maintenance today. And Steve is very concerned that there's going to be real damage to the roof if we don't do this before winter sets in. So we're going to work together on getting that project done in 2025. So we will not be asking for the additional money in 2026 because we are going to figure out how to get it done in 2025 before winter.
And that was one of the CIP projects?
No, actually, that was because that was under the $15,000 threshold.
Mhm.
That was actually included in the regular operating budget.
Okay,
So we would be changing the operating budget there.
gotcha.
Another thing that has changed is vehicle purchase, maintenance, and insurance. Library staff, especially Rebecca Brown in outreach, but actually several library staff members regularly drive out and about. Rebecca drives to senior centers and she updates the book shares, and so she is out like every day she works, driving around. And we also deliver the mail and distribute posters and do a lot of pick up supplies. We've been using our own cars for this. And then when we finally asked, what would the insurance, if there was an accident while we were using our car for work purposes, how would that be covered? And so we were told that it would be covered by our personal insurance, and that the city would consider covering anything that wasn't covered by our personal insurance. And that scared us a little. And so we decided that we really do need a library vehicle that is covered by the city. So the police department was surplusing 3 vehicles. And so we were going to do this in 2026, but they're surplusing vehicles now. So we put dibs on one of the vehicles. We've got it. And so we're still going to we won't need the money to actually purchase a vehicle, which we would have to do if it was going to be a KPU vehicle. But apparently if it's general government, you just swap. So we will not need the money to purchase a vehicle. We will, of course, still need the money to get gas and to maintain the vehicle and to get insurance. So that's all still going to be in the budget. But we just got the vehicle yesterday. So pretty nice. So that's going to happen. Let's see, telecommunications. That's the E-rate. That's where E-rate comes in, because that is a federal program that has gone on, gosh, I think maybe about 20 years. And for at least 10 years, we've been part of it. And so it's a very involved process to apply for this. It goes through several stages. It usually starts in January, hopefully ends in April when you get the approval letter. But we work with KPU, which is our internet provider, to fill out all those forms and figure out all the technicalities. And right now, what that gives us is a 60% discount on our telecommunications, which is huge, because we provide free Wi-Fi and public internet, and that all is really expensive. So.
May I interrupt briefly?
Mhm,
I just
sure.
want to let you know about this alert. I don't know if you need to adjust the plug.
Oh,
No, it's
good
taking
heavens.
digital
Thank you.
notes.
Yes, it
and I want
is.
you to- The batteries ran low in the lab.
Yeah.
It's transcribing the
you.
meeting, so I don't want to lose those minutes. I think we might have just lost.
Maybe, but that's okay.
Okay.
Well,
Just thought I'd bring your
it'll be
attention to
fine,
it.
but thank,
Sorry to
I
interrupt.
appreciate that. Yep. So that's telecommunications. Our utility rates have gone up significantly. So that's the next one, electric, water, sewer, and garbage. So I had put in a number for 2026, I think $93,000. And then I got a call a couple weeks ago from finance, and they said, we think it's gonna be more. They recommended that we increase it to $100,000 next year for electric, water, sewer, and garbage. So that's what we're doing. We are looking into maybe not turning the lights on, right when we come in, or not leaving computers on overnight. It would mean that they wouldn't get updated until we turn them on the next morning, but maybe that's okay. The electricity savings is projected to be marginal for that, but we want to act in good faith. So that's what we're looking at there.
Can I ask a question about that one? Is that $100,000 with or without the E-rate?
No, the $100,000 is just for physical utilities. It's not for telecommunications.
Okay.
So telecommunications is a separate line, separate account number. And I'm trying to think what that is now. I don't know what we estimated, might have been 90 something for the telecommunications. And that is after the E-rate discount. So 57, oh no,
62.
62. So that's after the discount.
Thank you.
And so I think those are the kind of major things I wanted to bring up as far as the operating budget.
Different department.
Did you want to talk about the capital stuff or just stop there?
Let's see, well, we had it, that was a separate agenda item, but I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
If you want me to go on with it, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. So do we have to have questions for the director regarding the numbers presented?
This is quite juvenile, so I apologize in advance. But the car you purchased, or
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you purchased or just switched.
Yes, it was transferred to the library
Transferred?
from the.
So does that come with like the lights and sirens?
No.
Were you
I
driving
asked
around
about
getting
that.
Those late books.
Yeah. I asked about that because I thought, oh, that might be kind of cool to have like in the parking lot. Like
Change the
overnight.
colors
Yeah.
rather than like.
Well, there's that too. I was more thinking people might be less likely to do it.
Yes.
It's the KPD, it's the KPL.
Yeah. But no, when I called the garage, they said, and I asked them about that, they said, oh no, when they're decommissioned from the police department, we take away all of the specialized equipment, all the special seats. I didn't know there were special. Yes, there are. And all the lights and sirens and all that stuff. So no, it's got a little City of Ketchikan sticker on the sides. And yes.
And engineering got the other two.
Oh, okay.
So I was disappointed as well, Pat.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have any questions? So one of the things that I noticed is the travel and the training budget. I'm just curious about, it looks like $3,800 is approximately budgeted for that for the 5,
Right.
which I think is wonderful. I'm
Mhm.
just curious if that is a sufficient amount to cover the travel and per diem.
I think between that, and there are 2 accounts that help pay for travel and training, and I'm just like looking, see, okay. So, yeah, you're right. It is. Basically, we've never like fully covered travel and training. So we don't pay for all the expenses that go into going up to Sitka and staying for 3 days and that kind of thing. So it's basically a partial reimbursement, and that's, what we're expecting. I'm gonna go up to Sitka. I'm the speaker chair for the conference, and I'm not charging. I'm not getting reimbursed. So that 5 includes me, and so there's no reimbursement. So yeah, it's not a complete reimbursement, and sometimes people for professional development reasons just decide that they're not gonna get reimbursed.
That makes me feel bad
Why?
because I come from a profession where continuing education is important and it gets covered up to a cap, and I feel bad that we're not doing better to support, especially some of the staff who probably doesn't make as much money.
Well, I think we really do try to support those staff. And we really try to encourage, especially with our younger staff, who may not have been to a conference before, because having it as close as Sitka means, I mean, this is really great. It's a great opportunity. So yeah, we will make sure we find a way to cover. There are also state grants, which are actually this year kind of still in place. We don't know how long that's going to last, but that help with things like travel and training for staff who have never been to an ACLA conference. And so we'll definitely be applying for those as well.
I'm glad to hear that. I appreciate that comment, because I do think travel is important if you're developing a professional core group of people there. So one of the other comments I have is I've been digging pretty deeply into the budget and the numbers over the last couple few years, and I really appreciate the time that Pat has provided in answering additional questions for me. But when I go through these numbers that were provided, and I understand that the system has changed, and there's a learning curve that comes along with changing that system. We just experienced that at the borough this last year as well. But some of these numbers, I just have a few concerns about, just that they're, first of all, I have to say, in all my budget research, Pat, you've done an amazing job at maintaining your budget and at keeping your budget, staying within your budget bounds, like consistently, like clockwork. You've done it within 5% year after year after year. And I think that is to be commended. So, but as I'm going through and just looking at the information that's been provided now, and then looking forward, we're having this conversation because last year we had this conversation. And it was like there was some lingering questions about what was really presented before us. One of our items that we're supposed to do as an advisory board is to make recommendations to the council regarding this budget. And again, this year, I'm a little wanting more, just to have a more complete picture, because I look at things like in your notes when you talk about 9.5% increase on solid waste, 8% increase on electric and wastewater. And obviously they called you, right? You mentioned that. They said that you're probably going to bump that up a little bit. And then when I go back and I look at the numbers that were provided, it's like utilities communications. It was projected to be 13,250. It ended up at nearly 16,000, but the next budget amount is 15,000. So I'm looking for the increase, and that one in particular has to do with the federal E-rate program, right? That's your internet stuff.
Yeah.
But you just mentioned that it's at 62,000 after the discount, but then this is showing 15,000.
Oh, so those are two different divisions. So the lower number is the First City Libraries division. Yeah. So so we have a division specifically for the First City Libraries Consortium, and that consists of the public library and also all the school district libraries. And we share a system. We share the Cersei Dining system, and we also share expenses that relate to maintaining that system. And so that is the OCLC cost. So that's how the schools and the public library get our cataloging records. We download them from OCLC, and we have a joint subscription to that OCLC access. And it also includes the internet access that's required to actually share that system. We've got a server in City Hall, and then we also have internet that goes to all the public libraries, goes to the all the school libraries, goes to the public library. And so this in, what is it? 233 is the name of the division, which is First City Libraries. It's it's the little short one here. And so telecommunications for that division, for that shared system, we anticipated the amended budget is going to be almost 16,000. We're projecting that because E-rate gets awarded in April, it actually is accessible by KPU, which is our internet provider, in July. It generally starts hitting our budget in either August or September. And this year it was a little later than normal. And so in early September, when I was putting together this budget, I did not see the discount that was the result of the E-rate. It hit in late September. And so all of a sudden, instead of this projected budget, it was like, oh, okay, here it hit here, and therefore we paid a lot less in September. I'm hoping also in October for telecommunications costs, because E-rate, they kind of tend to group when they apply the E-rate discount. So it tends to be like August, September, October, and here it's late September and October when it hit. So because it's so unpredictable, I assumed that we would in fact see it at some point in telecommunication in the First City Library. So that's why I projected it'll be 13,250, and and I budgeted 15,000. So it's very squirrely because the KPU charges just kind of hit our budget, and unless we really dig into the monthly invoice, and we generally don't. We just see, okay, it's hit, and we approve it. But E-rate hits at weird times, and that's why our amended budget of 15,966, we probably won't actually hit that. It's probably going to be more like 13,200 because of the E-rate uncertainties.
Okay,
Well,
thank
then-
you.
yeah.
Thank you for that, because I was a little, the sheets weren't
Yeah.
labeled. I mean, I
Yeah.
could see it's O&M
Yeah.
and it's adult technical
Yeah.
service and stuff. And so that gets to my point, which was
Mhm.
that just for the purposes of public edification,
Mhm.
as this is the advisory board that disseminates the information
Yeah.
to the public, I would make the suggestion
Mhm.
to the city that it's important to the public to provide this information in an understandable format,
Mhm.
and they're not having to do math problems, because the confusion is where people get upset when they're frustrated because they don't understand what's before them.
Mhm.
So that was just one of the notes that I had, in addition to the fact that we don't have any numbers for personnel,
Mhm.
and that I think is approved at this point for the contracts, or
Oh, the contracts are, the contracts are.
right, and
definitely
you know
approved.
your staff numbers, and so I'm a little surprised that those numbers are not available, especially considering some of the conversation that we've had this over the last year about the fact that staff wages went up, by as much as 25% over a 3-year period. And when we have some of those numbers that
Mhm.
reflect that. So that's just some feedback that I had in going through this
Can I respond?
paperwork. Yes, please.
Okay. This year's kind of an interim year for the city because it has just started to implement this ClearGov. I think the intention, and I think we asked questions about this within the city, is that the kind of information that was available last year, with all the explanation of what every account is used for and what the funding sources are, that the intention is that ClearGov, they're going to design ClearGov, design our version of ClearGov so that it does provide that information. And my understanding is that when the budget draft goes to the city council, that the finance will have had time to include that information. But that converting to this new system has been just an enormous task for city finance. And that sometimes it's just not possible to quickly convert to a new system that has the full information as quickly as we'd like it. So I think that's something that may be a this year problem. And I think the city is working and the library is working to provide that information as quickly as we can. But it's just not able to do so as quickly as when we were using the old system, at least not right now.
Just give me just one second. Okay. I hear you on that, and
Mhm.
I understand that it is a process. But I still think that the public has a reasonable expectation that they get to have some say in the process. And this is our only meeting where we get to give any feedback about that.
Mhm.
And so to not have the complete information, I think is important feedback for staff finance to hear. That's all.
I will pass that on.
Thank you.
And certainly the public will have an opportunity to speak to this when the budget goes to council.
Sure, for the city, right?
Yeah.
But this is part of the process too for the borough.
Mhm.
So one other comment and then going to Sherry, I really did appreciate the breakout,
Mhm.
particularly in the budget summary section.
Mhm.
Because it kind of showcased the percentage difference. It showcased the different categories.
Mhm.
So I did really like that, and I wanted to make note of it. But again, my concern is that what this is showing before us tonight is not actually reflective of the increase in the budget that can be anticipated based on the notes that were provided.
Mhm.
So that would be just my feedback. That it's important, I think, to have as complete of information as possible. I know you've done the best job you can here, and I look forward to getting more information about that budget and
Okay.
seeing what's coming next. Sherry?
I just wanted to add a bit to what Pat was saying. As a city employee, I did the entire budget for my division. And the previous format for it was essentially an Excel spreadsheet and a Word document. And the Word document still exists. That's the
Mhm.
budget narrative that explains every single account and what those dollars are for and where they're going. And then it has a dollar amount next to it. We turn that in. It's complete. It's done. It's just not included with the actual spreadsheet numbers that have come from this ClearGov program, whereas before this was an Excel sheet and it was all just combined into one document. So it's coming. Everything's still there, and there is a very valid explanation for every single line item in the city budget. I can attest to that because I helped write it. So it's there. I know it would be very helpful to have that this evening. So we don't have to ask questions about everything. But like Pat says, when she brings it to Jack over here, it'll look much better. It's a process for everyone. So that's all.
Any other comments on the budget information? So I don't know if the board would be interested in this, but I had a thought because last year we did, I think, I don't know what we determined, we didn't have any recommendations or something. But I guess actually let's talk about the capital improvement stuff next, because I was gonna make a suggestion that we support what the librarian has put before us in terms of like, hey, these are important items and we really want you guys to pay attention to it and not just say, oh, we can't afford this, right? So I would actually say, let's go on to, if it's okay with the board, we'll go on to the capital requests and recommendations to the city. Sherry, this is your item, and Pat put together this additional information on capital requests.
Yeah, I had I just wanted to ask a couple questions of Pat regarding 2 of the 3 different projects that you outlined, if that's okay. This has been brought up before, but the security gates that you have are looking at, will the new gates, is that going to include a patron counting system, or is that still
They generally do.
okay?
But our current gates are so old
Mhm.
that counting system doesn't work.
Yes, we mentioned that
Yes.
almost as many times
Yes.
as the water bottle.
Yeah.
So-
Exactly.
So I wanted to know. I mean, if we're dropping 25 grand, I want it to count kids too. Is that's possible?
I think it's, I mean, they've improved a lot in the past, what was it, 18 years? So, yeah.
Excellent. And then second question is regarding the security camera system.
Mm-hmm.
I know down at the bottom, it says that you had Advanced Communications review the camera system and
Mhm.
gave you guys an estimate.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of unclear. Will you be purchasing that camera system through Advanced Communications, or was that just to give us some advice on
I
where to
think
go?
it was more advice. I think they
Okay.
put in the last system. But I think at, was it 25,000?
Mhm.
I think it would be an RFP.
Okay.
So yeah, and we'd be working with IT. IT gave us a recommendation for, these would be, great cameras and they would work with their central system,
Mhm.
which would be awesome. But yeah, for 25,000, we'd be doing an RFP.
Okay.
So
And when you spoke with Advanced Communications,
Mhm.
I'm just a big fan of shopping local. That's the reason I'm asking.
sure.
Was this camera system that you guys are looking at installing, is that something that they could provide if the proposal meets?
It sounded, I mean, this was a very casual kind of like run through.
Yeah.
But it sounds like they would be able to provide that,
Okay.
that system.
Cool. That was my only other question.
Mhm.
I just, if we're gonna spend the money.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Spend it here, so.
Yeah, definitely.
I have one comment. So at the most recent, I think it was the Borough Candidate Forum
Mhm.
at the library, they were trying to answer questions as the security gate was just beeping, beeping,
Mm.
beeping, beeping, beeping. So hopefully everyone there heard that and will realize what an issue this was as they were trying to answer questions with a,
Yeah.
I think it was malfunctioned and it like like right before closing, it
Yeah.
just like tweaked out. So, yeah,
It has
hopefully
been
this will be
overheating.
noted.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you want like a brief summary of these three or?
I think I read my packet. I assume everybody else read their packet. I would like to chat a little bit and hear because I did call Pat today and ask her some clarification on the on the new integrated system.
Mhm.
In particular, there's a paragraph here talking about the $13,000 to $14,000, $15,000 saving
Mhm.
annually that it would start in the first year,
Mhm.
but I wasn't clear on the one-time migration
Mhm.
costs. So do you want to speak to that for us, Pat?
Yes,
And
that's.
you gave us a new.
Yes, so gave you a new spreadsheet this evening. Basically, this was my internal spreadsheet to kind of come up with numbers. So I looked at our four vendor responses. And the two that seem to make the most sense are Insignia and TLC, that's the library company. And not only would they provide features that our 17-year-old system does not provide, but their annual maintenance costs would be much, much lower and with much less of a percentage increase per year. So when I looked at the first year costs, what I hadn't remembered when I spoke to you, Charlie, but I remembered when I saw this, is that not only is there the migration cost that we would pay to the new vendor, there's also a cost that our existing vendor, Cersei Dynex, would charge us to configure all the data to then be transferred into the new system. And so that is going to cost approximately $10,000. Then the installation of the new system, we're thinking approximately 20,000. We got the RFIs, which is request for information, that included a lot of cost data, but we actually probably would not be doing an RFP that would have definite cost data until sometime later in 2026. So we're assuming that it's going to cost about $20,000 to do the new system. And then the year one ongoing cost. So basically, we've got a system. Our existing system, we pay the annual maintenance cost in March. And I think we're paying, how much are we paying this year? It's somewhere in the high 30s that we pay.
In the packet, I think current system is 35,543.
Yep, and I think it's going to go up in 2026 to 38,341. That's something we pay for annual maintenance every year. It's going to go up 7.9% in the next 5 years. which is really an outrageous amount for it to go up. So anyway, we're gonna have to pay that in March of 2026 in order to maintain the existing system that we have. What I'm anticipating is that because we share this system with the school district libraries, if the city council approves this capital expense request, then our next task will be to make the case to the school district that they should include this additional 21,000. That would be a one-time cost for migrating to a new system in their 2026-27 fiscal year budget. So that would not, if they approve it, that would not go into effect until July of 2026. And so then we would put out the requests for proposals. Hopefully we would get those back and select a new system, and then maybe get on their schedule, hopefully in 2026, to convert to the new system. So in the meantime, we'd be using the old system, which means we would have to pay that one-time maintenance, or not one time, the ongoing maintenance fee. So that first year, once we install the new system in late 2026, we're going to have to pay that first year's ongoing cost for maintaining. So that's going to hit in 2026 with any luck. That is that 23,000. So it's going to be the 10,000 to pay to Cersei Dynex. It's going to be the 20,000 that we pay for the migration to a new system. And it's going to be 23,000 to pay that first ongoing maintenance fee for the new system. That's all going to hit hopefully in 2026. And so that's the 53,000.
Thank you for that. And then to clarify, does the school districts, these numbers don't have any of the school districts' contribution considered, correct?
This would be overall. So basically, the school district would contribute some, and the library, the public library would contribute some. But this is the total cost.
So when it says it would be 23,000 for the first year one ongoing cost, that 23,000 would be split proportionally based on the agreement with the district.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Have you had the your legal team look over the legal team? The legal look over your contract with Cersei Dynex to review like the migrating out.
No, I think we don't have, we have not seen an agreement from Cersei Dynex. They did send us a proposal for maintaining our relationship with Cersei Dynex. And then I asked them what would be the terms under which they would convert our data so it could be migrated to a new system. We haven't heard back from them. So not surprising.
No.
They don't want to lose a customer. But no, they have not. We have not.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Like I see that 10,000, and I know
Yeah.
like the data mapping between the two systems is going to be complex, and
Yeah.
hopefully
Oh,
IT,
yeah.
local IT doesn't have to deal with that.
No, no, because it's very kind of specific to libraries. Yeah.
Yep. It would be curious to see if your new system can bypass the old system.
How do you mean?
Well, like I don't know. I'm dealing with something similarly at my work where we're transferring vendors, similar process.
Sure.
And then data mapping the same. One vendor is not compliant, so we're just kind of bypassing that, and so thus would save the 10,000, but probably spending it somewhere else on time.
I was going to say, I cannot imagine doing that with the library system. I think it would be so time intensive and staff intensive.
Yep.
And the kind of expertise that required is not something that we have locally.
No, I wouldn't say locally. I'm just would be curious if your new system, if the new system when you're doing that, like the consultation of the data mapping and transfer, if it actually requires the active participation of your old vendor. I assume it would.
Yeah,
But-
I'm thinking so. We did much smaller version of that when the UAS Ketchikan Campus Library migrated. It was actually to another Cersei Dynix system for the UA system. And that costs like 2,700. And that was in 2021. And we're assuming doing the migration to an entirely new system. They tend to have very different kind of data requirements. And if you're in the middle of that, yeah, I know you understand like how different those requirements are.
Okay.
So, but we'll look into it.
Well,
Yeah.
it always kind of irks me that like
Yeah.
a company that's just trying to nickel and dime. And so if there was a way to avoid that extra 10,000. But it seems as if that might be viable.
But we can definitely look into it.
So like just looking at the numbers, Polaris and Cersei Dynix, they're
Mhm.
like, I would say more top tier in their pricing. And
Mhm.
Cersei Dynix is like huge, massive disappointment.
Mhm.
So, I know you did the research and got all these numbers.
Mhm.
Did you have an opportunity to actually use Insignia and like see how user friendly, like what the
Yeah.
difference in the system is? Because I
For-
mean, it is cheaper and cheaper is
Mhm.
not always better. Sometimes
Yeah.
that can be bad.
No, Insignia, we actually did get a demo.
Okay.
It's been about a year now since we got the demo. It seems like a really great system. They always do when you're doing a demo. But yeah, it seems like a great system. We're not so Polaris, for example, or even Cersei Dynix. Polaris is known as the Cadillac of library systems. It is amazing and does incredibly complex thing with incredibly complex library systems, like a university system or a large city which has many branches. I wanted to see how much it was because I've used it in other places and it's really slick. But it may be more horsepower than we actually need for this system. Cersei Dynix, I just can't get around the increase in the annual maintenance cost. That said, when they just very cheerfully said, "Oh, it'll be like 7.9%, for the next 5 years, each year for the next 5 years," and I thought, how can you even even say that with a straight face? I was really shocked, and so that's that was a real impetus to say, what do we really need, and that's what we've done the RFI, request for information. That was like 25 pages of like specifications. And we did that for each of these, and then we compared all the specifications. And it really was surprising how many of the specifications were in common with all 4 of these. And many of the things that were specific to Polaris or specific to Cersei Dynix were not things that we were necessarily going to be using or really valued very much. So that was very eye-opening. And so the request for proposal, assuming we get that far, is going to have a much smaller list of specifications, things that they don't already have in common. So things that we might be able to say, oh, well, this might be a deal breaker. But yeah, I think it's just we were comparing things that are like basically for much bigger systems. They are very happy to add us as a customer, but that may just be too much for us, I think.
Just want to make sure it's user friendly, and
Yeah.
because the current system's very like
It's
Y2K.
I was gonna say it's very 2007. So yeah, so this will not be.
Can I just ask that we get this email to us, Pat? Because of
Oh,
the
sure.
stuff that got cut off.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
This is really good information, and it makes it easier to sell, like, right? It makes it
Yeah.
easier to talk about when we can say clearly, it's gonna save us $18,000 the first year, and
Mhm.
by year 5, we're
Mhm.
saving $15,000. So
Yeah. Okay. I will.
great work. Thank you. All right. Anything else? I would suggest then, just to keep in the spirit of our purposes here on the advisory board, I wrote down. I didn't write it down. I thought I wrote it down.
Make a motion?
Yeah. Does anyone have any thoughts? I just jotted down, move to strongly support the capital project request by the library.
I make a motion.
Make it, Nina.
To ditto.
Second her ditto.
So are you moving to, for the advisory board to strongly support the capital project request?
All
from the
capital
library?
projects, yes, all the.
I second.
Seconded by Ms. Dahl.
Okay, great.
Any other comments about that?
No, I think that's.
Just one question then for discussion on a seconded motion. Is this specific then to the capital improvement proposals, or is this to the proposed budget in its entirety? I know it was capital,
So this was specifically to the 3 proposed capital projects.
understood.
Yeah,
Okay, just clarify.
specifically.
Thank you.
Great question.
Yeah, good. Should we separate that or do something regarding the budget?
It's the will of the board.
It's will of the board?
I like the separate.
Yeah,
Like the
I do
second,
too.
okay,
They're
yeah.
2 different books.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is just a great package that she's put together before us to let us know their needs.
Mhm.
So, I'd like to say something strongly about that to the council. So if there's no other comments, then when you're ready, you can call the roll.
Okay. Let's see. Govars.
Yes.
Hops.
Yes.
Lojegren.
I,
Montgomery.
Yes.
Pilgrim.
Yes.
Let's see. Dahl.
yes.
Finnegan.
Yes.
Arnson.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so that wraps up our unfinished business for the evening. We have a few items on our new business, but I've had a request for a break. And so we'll break until 8 p.m. Check in order, and we will get back onto our agenda, starting at new business, which is review the old draft of LAB laws and operating practices with a view to updating and getting them formally approved by the city council. I think maybe in conjunction with the city council's changes is where that was going.
Mhm.
Yeah. Looking at Kate.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I remember this from 6 months ago.
Yeah. So Pat included in our packet, the current operating rules and bylaws.
And this was a draft from many, many years.
And is this the one that June found? Perfect. And so thanks for the additional email from June and clarification that this is just kind of out there lingering, right? And maybe we want to formalize it. I'm not sure. It's to the will of the board. Does anyone want to kick off some discussion? June?
Could I make a motion?
Please.
I make the motion that due to a lack of proven authenticity, the undated and unsigned document titled Ketchikan Public Library Advisory Board Operating Rules and Bylaws be marked unauthorized.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded for discussion.
Where does this copy live now?
I mean, it just shows up
It just shows up,
periodically.
okay.
And then we say, is this something?
Right. Well, I thought maybe it was archived somewhere.
And, you know, looking back for 5.5 years, I could not see anything where it was authenticated at a board meeting or even discussed at this level.
But it's still floating around.
It's floating
That's why I
around,
don't see it.
And I have no idea when it was written or who wrote it.
Well, the English looks like it was probably 20th century.
We should have asked this when Lisa was here. She might remember.
Yeah, institutional knowledge.
Right?
So would this prompt creating new bylaws if we?
Well, we're just saying this doesn't have any merit. If we want to do bylaws, that would be a separate.
Okay.
Okay.
I do recall this coming up, and you mentioned it in your statement, that our previous manager, Delilah Walsh, said that bylaws are not required from an advisory board. I think that after much scrutiny of these bylaws, that the bulk of the important information is already in the Ketchikan Municipal Code. The only items on this list other than 1 and 2, which are just, I think, not important. I mean, that's, a given. Items 3, 4, and 5 are found in sections D and F of the Ketchikan Municipal Code in the Library Advisory Board section. And then also number 9, all of that information about the minutes and whatnot, minus the part about a secretary, is found in section F of the Ketchikan Municipal Code. That leaves just the election of a chair, a vice chair, secretary, the chair presiding over all meetings, and the vice chair presiding over meetings when the chair is absent. But number 4 on there, and also in the section F of the Ketchikan Municipal Code, it says Robert's Rules of Order shall govern the deliberations and actions of the board to the extent not otherwise provided by an ordinance or resolution adopted by the council made applicable to the board. I think if we follow Robert's Rules of Orders, as outlined by the Ketchikan Municipal Code, that includes the meeting operations of having a chair presiding over meetings and whatnot. So basically, this is redundant, and in my opinion, the bylaws are, because everything is already stated in the Ketchikan Municipal Code. So I would agree that we can mark this as an authorized, throw it away, and not look back.
And reflected in the minutes.
Yes.
I just have a question. There was that one item that doesn't follow Robert's Rules of Orders of electing officers, so how would that work with the municipal code following Robert's order?
I printed, and I forgot it in the printer at work, so if we could all take a field trip across town. The Utilities Advisory Board, they have a section under their advisory board of rules and regulations in the Ketchikan Municipal Code that outlines when they elect the chair, the vice chair, they decide on their meeting schedule at their annual organizational meeting that is in the KMC. And we lack that in ours. So I think if we could bother Jack again to maybe add, see if council would add another section to the Library Advisory Board part of the Ketchikan Municipal Code that would say, this is when we do this, it already has when we meet. We've adjusted that, but adding a section that says, or just including in the same section when we meet, when our organizational meeting is, and that's when chair and vice chair are elected. In my almost 3 years of sitting here, we don't elect a secretary. Miss Pat is our wonderful minute keeper. And I think everybody's been fine with that. So I wouldn't mess with that. But I just for the sake of having one document that we refer to for our rules, obviously it's got to be the city code. So if we need to add something, while it is probably not completely necessary like right now, but I mean, if there's something that we want to put into the code as part of our laws, it would make sense to have that all in one place rather than have 90% of it here and then a separate section of bylaws. That's what makes sense to me.
As Pat.
Oh, I just wanted to note that at the, I think it was the January 2025 meeting of the advisory board, there was a discussion of selecting officers. And so there was a decision made, and the board voted on that. And so there was a whole process set forth here.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that would be appropriate for the ordinance. I mean, it seems like there are some specific things already included in the ordinance, and maybe this would be just one more thing that could be included. I think I did put it in the packet of the minutes from that meeting with the process for selecting officers. So I didn't know whether that was something that we wanted to include and just move over to the ordinance, or propose that, or we wanted to deal with that.
And that was exactly what my question was gonna be is, could we take that section and ask if it could be moved into the ordinance to memorialize it, cause it would have to be, cause it's not in Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah.
And on that train of thought, I really appreciate you bringing this up in this manner, because I don't know, I like having one sheet of paper that I can reference as an advisory board. I don't want to go look at the code. Like, this is great. I don't mind redundancy in this kind of situation, but I understand what you're saying, and there's nothing wrong with just snipping that part out of the code and providing it on a sheet of paper for future members. But the only other thing that I noted in here, based on what you said, is this section in number 4 that says, and maybe I missed this in the conversation, while the current edition of Robert's Rules of Order shall prevail, it may be observed informally as a matter of convenience. I feel like that's something that's been a little bit important to this board, is to be able to have that flexibility and not be so rigid with Robert's rules. And so that would be the only other comment I would have, is if that is important to the board, that if we decide we want to send this back to the council and say, hey, can you guys update the code so we don't have multiple reference points that we have to look at? That's the only other point that I saw that wasn't communicated.
I would agree with that, because I recall before I was on the board, there were several issues about Robert's Rules of Order and following them to the T, and so it would be nice to have that memorialized also.
Just to kind of unpack this idea a little bit, I do love the idea of kind of simplifying matters. I do wonder if it might not be more expedient if we were to select the portion of the unauthorized, or we haven't voted on it being unauthorized yet, but there's no indicated author. I think it's within our purview as a board to adopt, even if it's a very small set of bylaws, even if it pertains specifically to the use of Robert's Rules of Orders or how we establish our executive committee, so to speak. I think it would just be more, I'm happy to take it to council, and this is the kind of administrative cleanup that I think Ms. Walsh was looking to tend to in her long-term vision for the city before she left this island. But it's also, it has to go through first and second reading. There's public comment, et cetera. I don't think there'd be any problem. It's not the kind of thing I think people are going to raise a stink about. I think it would fly through the council without much issue. But I think also we have the ability just to adopt a very simple, maybe 3-point or 4-point set of bylaws that would incorporate these same ideas without having to bother with the ordinance. Just articulating that perspective.
Sherry?
I agree. The things that are missing from the actual municipal code should be addressed. And like you said, maybe the easier way to do it is to have our own bylaws, because that now is something that we can change as a board. And if that includes our election process and things that we do internally, then that might be the best route. But what I would like to see in the bylaws is to remove the items that are listed that are also in the Ketchikan Municipal Code. This says 3 members, this said 5 members for a quorum. The bylaws have, our meeting times listed and all of the things. And then it talks about the secretary taking minutes and, so the things that are what I would like to see, the things that are duplicated should be removed. So maybe at the beginning of our bylaws, we could say, we follow everything as listed in Ketchikan Municipal Code. In addition to that, we have the following bylaws. We do elections this way on this, at this meeting. And this is how we operate. And so if that is, going to be 2 separate documents and that makes it easier, that's fine. But that also gives us a little more flexibility in the future to not have to go to council to change our election process, or, if we have, if we need to change the organizational meeting because, things are just not working out in January, because who wants to be here in January? That's prime vacation time. Let's do this in July. So I could definitely get on board with that. If we're going to keep a separate document, I would like to clean it up and remove the things that are already listed in the Ketchikan Municipal Code.
Diane?
So would we really do bylaws or would we do rules and guidelines? I was just looking at what City Manager Walsh had said about we don't need to have bylaws, can adopt rules and guidelines. And I don't know enough about the legalities to know if it makes a big difference. Bylaws sounds fancier and more binding.
Just to speak to that really quick,
Yes.
I agree with you on that because bylaws are they usually have very difficult to change bylaws typically. So they're usually very structured and they're not something that typically changes. So I appreciate that comment. Kate?
I would also say to that end, we're an advisory board, so guidelines are aligned with advisory. And not to be super pedantic, but number one already kind of says the municipal code prevails. And so
Mhm.
basically anything that's in the code is first, and then anything that is in the guidelines is second. So I support what you're saying, clean this up, use this as the supplement to the first document, which is the code.
Jim?
I support coming up with a cleaned up copy of this, which hopefully will be dated and signed and mentioned in the minutes. But you know, if we call the new document operating rules, it's not quite as defined as bylaws, because generally bylaws are a little more difficult to change.
Just for clarification, are we still in discussion on the motion to make them unauthorized? Is that still the discussion we're in?
Authorize this
Are
document,
you trying
yes.
to bring us back?
She just wanted to make sure we didn't go off
No,
the
I
rails
was
here.
making sure I heard like I support and I approve. I wanted to make sure you were still in that before we made a motion to do something else.
So I would just add, sure, I hear your point about not duplicating, but for me, sometimes redundancy is good because then it's clear and you don't have to go to two different sources to try to get the same, the basic information. So I personally would, when we say cleaned up, I imagine that is, we're gonna fix these things that are highlighted in here, that it's a quarterly, that it would be at 6 p.m., that there's 3 members constitute a forum whenever the regular meeting is, and do so that it's in alignment with the code changes in the city. But I wouldn't necessarily be supportive of taking those things off, and I am kind of getting off the rails because we are supposed to be talking about whether or not this is marked authorized or unauthorized. But I think that goes to the same point, right? We're gonna vote this up or down, or somebody's gonna make a motion to amend. But that would just be what I would respond is, I don't think there's anything in here that needs to be taken out. It needs to be cleaned up because it's one sheet of paper, and operating rules and guidelines or procedures make sense to my brain. Sherry?
My only concern with that is when you have a list here that says these are our guidelines and they can be changed by just a board vote, and that 5 is a quorum according to Ketchikan Municipal Code, and we sit down looking at this and then it's like, oh, well, we can change what our quorum is because it's on this list. No, what I want to see is just the only things that we can change as a board by our vote only, not city council, would not be included in this document. And I mean, I get it having it all in one thing. We could have a 2-page paper of what's, we could sum this up in a different way if needed to have it in the document, maybe the paragraph 1. This is what's in the code. We can't change it. These are just our rules and guidelines. These can be changed. And it'd be about formatting, but my big concern would be to have it in 2 places. Cause right here, this says 3 members, but the Ketchikan Municipal Code in fact says 5 members is a quorum. And I would hate for that to get overlooked if people think that this is on future members, maybe be like, oh, well, it's just in the guidelines. We don't have to follow that, but you do because it's in the code. That's where I would worry about the confusion of, like people maybe only looking at one document and not the other.
So what, if I could,
Yeah.
just to clarify, I appreciate that comment that there needs to be no place where there can be a conflict of information. But what I'm saying is that why wouldn't our operating rules and policies or procedures reflect what is in the code?
Well, it would. I would just want it to be very clear that because here it says that these rules and bylaws may be changed by motion from any member of the board with affirmative concurrence by a majority of the board at any duly constituted meeting of the board. If you have that, and then you have things listed below about what a quorum is, that law can't be changed by a meeting of the board. That's my concern, is that the rules that we have in the municipal code need to be listed either above or separately from, everything after number 2 on the bylaws that say we can change this as a board, because you can't change what's in the code as a board. That has to go to council.
I like that suggestion, because I was sitting here thinking about that dilemma. And I was especially wound up about the quorum thing. I even looked it up on the city website today.
Jack, do you do something?
Yeah, I was just gonna, I appreciate all the commentary. I think Sophia's brought up an important point. We do have an active motion on the table that we should probably address, because the conversation pertains to the same item, but we're getting to some different elements of it. So maybe we want to address that motion. Before we do though, I want to say something about the way we're addressing it. Just because of the nature of the conversation, I think, Sherry's made some good points here. I think I agree that we shouldn't have these conflicting elements between whether we call them regulations or rules and bylaws and the code, which is already addressed in the first provision of the presented rules and bylaws, in which it is stated that in any conflict between the two, the ordinance or the city code prevails. So I think if we're going to undertake any effort to preserve the bylaws by whatever name, but to clean them up, we will do so in a manner that is reflective of the fact that what is already stated in code guides the guidelines or the bylaws that we adopt if we're making changes to them. Separate from that, though, I think perhaps we should call the question on the original.
All right, Pat, when you're ready, we are voting on the motion to mark the document before us as written as unauthorized.
Can we continue with that discussion really quickly? So,
We have a call the question
okay, then that means we must. Okay.
vote.
Okay, 1 minute. But we will.
We will continue.
All right.
No doubt.
It's okay. All right. On this motion, Hobbs.
Wait, what is, can you repeat the motion?
Oh, the motion is to, I'm paraphrasing, to label this as unauthorized.
Okay.
This is just a
Aye.
document that's, okay.
Yep.
All right, Liljegren.
Aye.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Pilgrim,
Yes.
see, Dahl,
Yes.
Finnegan,
Yes.
Govars.
Yes.
Arnson.
Yes.
Okay, good. Ayes have it.
Somebody else want to make a new motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'm not gonna make a motion. No, I'm gonna actually, when we talk about future agenda items at the next meeting, I would like to add a discussion session and have everybody bring
You can make that motion right now.
bylaws to add an agenda item
No,
for next meeting.
You were suggesting something more than just an agenda item.
Yeah, for the next meeting, not tonight.
Right.
Yeah.
You can make a motion now for the next agenda. You have the right, you have the ability to do that. If you would like to do that. If you want to wait, you can.
Okay, but I can just do that right now. I don't have to wait.
Yeah,
till
because
future
we're on
agenda
the,
items
we're
tomorrow?
on this discussion item of
Okay.
reviewing the old draft of bylaws and operating practices with the view to updating and getting them formally approved by City Council.
Okay, so I don't even know what I moved. I would move that we, at our next meeting, have a discussion, work session, to draft new operating rules and bylaws for the Library Advisory Board.
Here it is.
And we'll come up with an official name then in our work session.
We have a second.
second.
Is this Kate seconded?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right.
You get that well enough.
I do a little well enough.
So at the next meeting,
Mhm.
the motion is to have a work session regarding this topic of the rules and bylaws or policies, procedures or guidelines or whatever we are gonna call them.
Yes. So whatever people want, bring your ideas and we can accept, add, format, and make it all pretty and get it done.
I would like to make a suggestion in term, because I'm gonna open up the discussion, right? We have motion on the floor now. Can start with what there already is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Need to reinvent, right? Okay, just to be there, just to clarify. Okay,
When this was sent to us, was it sent in a Word document?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Oh,
be
wait a
sending
minute.
in
May
some
not have,
suggestions?
may not have been in the packet as a Word document, so I can send the board the Word document.
That'd be lovely.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question, and it may not be right because I'm still learning all these rules, but could we form a subcommittee to come up with a document that could then be discussed at the work session?
So I'm looking to Jack to help me out here, but I believe that the board can authorize like an ad hoc committee. But I think the appropriate time to do that would be during or after, actually, not during, after the work session at the
Okay.
next meeting.
Okay.
But
I just
that
read
doesn't
about it.
solve the problem right now.
Yeah, I just thought it would be nice to have somebody that had a spiffed up copy that we could start talking about rather than starting from the beginning.
So one of the things that we have to be careful of is the Open Meetings Act.
Yeah.
And so with committees, I mean, I guess
Oh,
the
yeah.
board could authorize a committee. Can we do that tonight, even though it's not an agenda item?
We have, may I
Please.
Yeah, we have the ability to form that committee. I'm looking now though to the code. It's the unauthorized bylaws state that 5 members of the board are a quorum. However, the KMC, is it 3?
KMC says 5.
KMC says 3, part F.
What?
Thank you. Okay, yeah, just making sure, because some boards are so small, that you can't have more than 2 people on a subcommittee, and that isn't always effective. But I think we could have a committee as large as 4 people for a board of 9
I
without
think,
constituting a quorum.
are you saying that the KMC says that 3 is a quorum or 5 is a quorum?
5 is a
5 is a quorum. So we could have,
Okay.
we could have as many as 4 members on that subcommittee.
Okay. Nina?
Can we open up the second meeting that we have on our calendar in October? And, no, oh, no.
Would it be easier if everybody just, I mean, sorry, Pat, I mean, if people had ideas, maybe between now and our January meeting, we could email Pat, she could compile that and put it all as one, as just a starting point in the agenda packet for our next quarterly meeting. That way we wouldn't have, we could do it on our own time with the ideas and whatnot, in addition to what we already have.
That's permissible, I think, but you have to just make sure you're not including any other,
Right.
more than a couple other board members in that topic.
We just send it back.
Yeah, you would
Yeah,
only be
yeah.
just
Mhm.
communicating that directly to Pat.
Right.
Okay.
Does a subcommittee need to be noticed? As
Yes.
part of open meetings?
I don't think an ad hoc committee needs to be noticed because you don't have a quorum.
Right.
And you're
Um,
not.
an ad hoc is
conducting
just like a
business,
right?
you know, it's-
Right.
It's just it's a standing committee and you set them up typically for a specific either number of meetings or time period. Or a specific task or specific task.
I'm wondering if board members send me, their suggestions. There might be a lot of similarities on a lot of these
Mhm.
suggestions. It may turn out to be, something we could bring to the next meeting and have a pretty clear discussion about, without needing to create an ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
So that would be a lot of work on your part, but you'd be willing to do that?
Oh, I'd be totally willing to, and I think it would probably not be all that much, bad.
Cause I'm just thinking
Yeah.
it'd be kind of a mess if we tried to do that at a meeting, to be honest.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
always better to have something like right in front of you.
Just look what happened with that one portion.
Well, I mean, this document and between the existing unauthorized
Mhm.
document, and the Ketchikan Municipal Code, I mean, that, there's not really a whole lot more to add.
Mhm.
So I think that, that it wouldn't be hopefully not too overwhelming. If somebody wants to make up 17 more rules for our meetings.
I have rules about snacks.
You have to bring one, you have to bring it for everyone.
I think, yes, so can we, add
Bring
that?
coffee.
Oh, bring coffee.
Yep. I was gonna bring a jar for their coffee fund after the fact.
So if we could just add that to, the to-do list for everybody to send Pat your suggestions before the next, what do you usually, what's the timeline for the, agenda cutoff? 2 weeks, a week?
10 days, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, let's say 2 weeks. That should be fine, because that's gonna be the January meeting. So it's
Yeah.
between Christmas and New Year's. So.
I would just respectfully suggest that folks try to get their comments in as soon as possible. And I wouldn't, like, when you send that email in the Word document, it's gonna trigger me
Yeah.
to send you those comments, so that we're not putting a bunch of stuff on our plate around the holidays and all the other stuff you got going on. And then there's some time to flush out those comments.
Sure.
Find your duplicates and. Okay, so
So
have a motion.
I was gonna say,
we have a motion to bring this
To the next meeting.
up as a work session at the next meeting. And if somebody wants to do something specific with that, they need to prepare that agenda item and send that to Pat beyond the work session to have it be properly noticed. So if you want to take an action on the bylaws, just remember to have that reviewed as part of the agenda. Because if you just have the work session, you're not supposed to take actions in the work session. And if you don't have another agenda item specific to what you're discussing in that work session, then you might be out of order.
So do we really need a work session and Pat's doing the work? Or we'll actually have a work product to look at, should we maybe have an agenda item, which we can, I understand, right, we can table if we want to.
I would suggest that we have both, that the work session allows us fewer formalities in which to openly discuss the proposals that have been put forward to Pat and that we all consider the body. And then second to the work session, we have an actionable item that we can make a motion on, vote upon, and enact whatever the result of the work session,
Thank you.
Or you could table it.
or we can table it.
It's really different reading Robert's Rules of Orders from experiencing Robert's Rules of Orders, so thank you.
Great questions though. All right, so we have a motion to do this at a work session at the next meeting. And based on conversation, also include an agenda item. So I'm gonna friendly attach that to the motion unless
Okay.
somebody opposes that.
I will second your friendly.
Okay. So when you're ready, Pat, please call the roll.
Okay. Let's see, where are we down to? Liljegren,
I,
Montgomery,
Yes.
Pilgrim,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Finnegan,
Yes.
Govars.
Yes.
Hops,
Yes.
Arnson.
Yes.
Okay, the ayes have it to be on that.
Before we move on, I ask a kind of question related to the ordinance.
Yes.
Did this pass? Did this change? Has this gone through
Yes.
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 as it struck? So it's just not the
The-
Independence Day, it's just in the months.
In the
This
month
is the
side.
revised as of 725
Yeah.
version of the code. It just says the board shall meet at least once a quarter in the months of January, April, July, and October, or as needed as the chair or in her absence, acting chair shall determine.
Okay.
All right, so that concludes items A and of our new business. And we're moving into item B.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion.
For item B,
Can we table item B until the sponsor of that motion is present at the meeting?
second.
Second.
moved by Montgomery, seconded by Liljegren.
Okay,
And the motion is to table this item to the next meeting when the
Okay.
sponsor is present. Any conversation? Thank you. Call the roll when you're ready, please.
okay. Let's see, Montgomery,
Yes.
Pilgrim,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Finnegan,
Yes.
Govars.
Yes.
Hops.
Yes.
Liljegren.
Aye.
Okay, and Arnson.
Yes.
Okay, Great, that passes. It's tabled.
All right, we'll come back to that with Grant when he gets back. So our last new business item of the evening is item C, the change of one-year term for the teen representative to June, July. Sophia Pilgrim.
Okay, so
And we also have this laid on the table.
yes, there is a little paper and it says kind of what the city says about this. And whether this, first I asked Pat, is this legal to do this? Because no. And so after Pat did a lot of wonderful research for me, it is. I can do this. If we choose to, we can vote on this and change it. The biggest reason I have for this was part of what I've started doing is surveying so I can get an accurate read on all teen and students in the district. And it is very difficult looking at these terms. I've run 2 consecutive terms, so I've not run into this issue. But in the future, if I wanted to do a winter survey and then also do a spring survey, if I was only in the 1-year position, I would only be able to do a winter survey successfully before passing it off to the next person to do a spring survey. And also, that's like my first point, is it would be really hard to get an accurate 1-year read on students in that way. And the second is this would align with the school year term. So if there was, for example, me, who will be aging out of this position, I will be in school still till June, but this term would end in March. And this way it would make it so that if one person was aging out of the role and maybe another person wanted to step into it, that it would be aligned with the school year term, which I thought would be more, I think, simple, easier for students at K-High, Revilla, etc., to make it so it's a 1-year term for them, so they would be serving during the school year. And it would also give time in the summer for them to get used to the board, because jumping into it in the right, like smacked out of the school year can be difficult. So that would give them that summer July meeting to kind of get a grasp on everything. So that was just my thoughts on this, how it might better impact, teens that are going to be applying for this role. And I thought of this as I was talking to Pat about it, about the conflict of interest of me proposing this, because my term will still expire in March. I'm not pushing to extend my term. This would change, I believe, with my motion, would happen after the fact. So there would be the choice of having that, the meeting after March, that July meeting, where there would be, like, that would be the transition. And you would have, instead of me leaving in March, and then not having a team representative for that first meeting in July and then waiting until October, then it would just be an immediate transfer. Or instead of me serving into July. So that would be, if that makes sense. I think I've confused myself. But yeah, currently I run from April through March. So this would instead be from July to June, if that makes sense. Yes.
We're not really in a discussion.
Oh, you're
No, we
Do we
should,
want to
we should
enter
probably
into
make a
it,
motion.
and then, because I have some questions.
You want to formally make your motion?
I can formally make a motion. I move to change the 1-year term of the Library Advisory Board's teen representative to one that begins on July 1st and ends on June 30th of the following year.
Second.
So with starting in July, do you foresee, as our youth representative who knows all the hip things, if it would be difficult to recruit a student to start in July?
No. And I've thought about this. At the end of the school year, a lot of people, like clubs start having less events. At the beginning of the school year, it's incredibly hard to ask people to put more on their plates. I know when I started applying for this position, it was at like peak involvement for everything else. November, yes. It was at peak involvement when I was doing this, and I almost said no because of that. At the end of the school year, it's a lot of phasing it out. So clubs are doing less. Most sports are like slowing down. And it would give me a really good time when I finished my survey to also add, are you interested in applying for this next year? And that would give me a full month to kind of be able to say, like, here's the information, here's what you would do at a meeting, here's kind of what, because this position, I did not come into it with guidelines on what to do, so here's what I've made of it, and kind of talk to people and not guide the next person, but guide multiple people who might be interested in it. So this would give me, and then also in the future representatives, time to kind of get a pool of people interested and also inform them on what the job actually is. Because prior to this, there was no team rep, and so there was no one to really be like, this is what you'll do. It was just the seat. So this would give me and then future representatives an ability to say, here's a month where I can say, I'm no longer here. This is what the job or position is. This is what comes with it. Here's what I've done. Are you interested to the extent that you'd like to apply? And then that application period would be, school's done. Then they would have that, month where they could just decide at that point, have their first meeting be that July meeting, and kind of step into it for the school year. I think it would actually be more beneficial getting kids involved to make that full circle.
I'm really supportive of this, but my question is the process of onboarding, like the little talk we had about Robert's Rules of Orders and stuff like that. Would that be a problem or an issue with starting somebody in June instead of with everybody else in the new crop?
My thought, just to respond, I think that's a really valid point. But most of the rest of these are rotating, right? So there's really only one or two that are, I mean, at any point during the year could turn over. And so everybody kind of will have the opportunity to maybe have some gap from that training. The gap from being seated versus having the training. I think that were you on yet when Kim did the Robert's Rules training?
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, and so they did that again this year, right
Mhm.
after the new appointees
Yeah.
came on, right?
Right.
So this would be just out of the order where most people join the board on the same date, even if it's different years. So it's just I hope it's something that's not a problem, but it's a question.
I would just offer also, and I can't speak for the borough staff, but I'm sure that they would be happy to extend the invitation to any of our board members because they do training in November usually, right after the
October
election.
30th. Oh, yeah.
November 30th.
October 30th.
Oh, see, so yeah, so like they have training coming up, so it would be one meeting, there'd be an opportunity for other trainings, and I'm gonna make a note of that.
Okay.
Just talk to staff about. Okay.
The position is appointed by the mayor, approved by the council.
Mm-hmm.
With the staggering of this process, would that cause any undue challenge? Okay. Is there any interest, is there any history, Lisa Pearson, in why most of the board starts in March?
Not that I know of. Not that I've heard.
Would it make sense to shift all of us, like,
July.
to July?
Oh, July is such a busy time. Oh, forgot to mention.
But it's not, it's just.
So that would be a fresh crop, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
but being part of a fresh crop in July is really hard for a lot of people between working in the tourism industry and recreating. I think that's bad. Student perspective is different than grown up perspective.
I also, I cannot remember, it's a very long night, I apologize. When I was looking at this, I believe that if they were appointed in June or July, they would be either, depending on the date and when they were appointed, they might be not at that July meeting. I think that depending on when we change this, it could be that their first meetings is this October one. And if we did change everyone, I'm not sure what that would look like scheduling.
Yeah, I want to address that and then we'll speak to the motion at large overall. To a simple change for perhaps the teen advisory group, having their nomination, it would be no additional burden to the mayor or the council. The only hiccup I would see if we had everybody's appointments move, at least for the liaison who's appointed from the council, my term technically expires in December, but this is officially my last meeting unless I'm reappointed, because at our next meeting, council members, we have a new council. We will all put in our requests for the advisory councils and boards that we would prefer to serve on. The mayor makes those decisions at their discretion, and then those appointments are issued to us. So I don't think it would be a huge headache for that one little thing to shift, but there is sort of a system in place for getting those advisory councils populated by liaisons from the city council. I'm sure it's a similar program for the borough assembly. So that's my thought on that matter. If I may speak to the motion at large, I support it in full. I think one way we'd address the gap perhaps is, I think if the board were to approve this motion as presented, then it would go into effect for the following year upon expiration of your current term. And in the interim for the, what's it, April and June meeting, where we would sort of be in limbo with respect to a TAG representative, I think we could appoint someone to fill that seat, and I can think of at least one person who might be a good candidate. So I think that might be the cleanest way just to jump from, I think the schedule you've proposed is very sensible for the reasons you've articulated, which is why I support this measure. And I think we could easily close the gap for those two meetings where your term would have technically been expired, and we might be in need of a voice from the teen advisory group.
Thank you.
Jim?
Pat, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have had gaps in the high school position in the past.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yes.
because
yes.
we are dependent on the K-High administration.
Yes, and I think we've got a much better communication channel with them now. But yes, in the past, there have definitely been gaps.
And I heard Sophia, it had been almost a year or over a year
I
before
think
we
it
hadn't
had
had a
been,
team.
Yeah.
And then also, addressing this, not just K-High as well. My communication, I've been making it a very forward thought of my mind that all communication I'm putting out, including surveys and such, goes to Rabilla and also students signed up on our online programs.
Great.
So that would be, if I was able to, if this motion passes, then on my spring survey, I can include that question of, are you interested in this? And maybe put like, this is kind of what you do. And then with that form, we don't specifically have to go through the school districts, just because a lot of change in administration, a lot of turnover, and sometimes different things getting put out can be difficult. So with this, it would just be mostly channeled through, me contacting people directly through all students. And that would give me a way to kind of communicate instead of just, the K-High announcements every day, because that does not reach as many teenagers as I would like to. In response to.
Okay, any other comments regarding the motion on the floor to change the one-year term of the teen representative to begin on July 1 and end on July 30th? Yes. Yes, please. It's getting a little late. I only have one thing I want to throw out there, and I want to just see how the board feels about this, because I appreciate Jack's comment, and I'm not sure. I'd like to just deal with that gap that if this passes. So I guess my question is, the teen, again, to clarify, the teen group puts forward their nominee, or who?
No, it is open to.
Okay, so anyone can apply, and they apply to.
They apply to the city clerk's office.
Okay.
There's a specific application for the teen representative because they're a minor. That gets signed by the person, the teen representative and the parent. So that goes to the clerk's office. Clerk's office puts them all together, sends them to the mayor, and then the mayor makes the recommendation, and then the council approves.
That's all I needed to know for now, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, motion on the floor is to change the one-year term for the teen representative.
Okay.
Roll whenever you're ready.
Okay. Pilgrim.
Yes.
Okay. Dahl,
Yes.
Finnegan,
Yes.
Govars.
Yes.
Hops,
Yes.
Liljegren,
Hi.
Montgomery,
Yeah.
and Arnson.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. The ayes have it.
All right, that ends our new business for the evening. And we've got board member comments and
Yes, we need to do the appointment for the, or is that later?
we don't have it as an agenda item right now, and that's why I was asking who does it. So I think if we might add it as a future agenda item. However, that needs to be addressed. I think everybody's kind of paying attention. So, okay, board member comments. Nina, do you want to kick us off? Or you can,
Sorry,
I can come back. I know.
Yeah, can you
I'm
loop back?
okay.
That was a quick transition.
June, did you
Well,
want to start?
I think you did a wonderful job tonight. I think having a vice chair was a wonderful addition. So, you know, we handled this very smoothly, did a great job. But I think I saw a lot of teamwork tonight, so very good meeting.
Trying to, jot down so I wasn't going as crazy as I was just now. But I was first thank you to Lisa Pearson, who's not here. Earlier I was at the library and I saw them setting up for that event, so I'm sure it was wonderful. And just thank her. That was a very wonderful presentation. I myself know her as Connor's mom. And so getting to know a little bit more about her and her job position, how much she's done with the library and how long she's been here, it's just wonderful to hear. And thank you to Pat putting together all this information. Just we ask and you give all the time. So just thank you for that. And thank you to all of you for listening to my ramble about why I was hoping to change this. Really, it was a lot of me asking Pat, can I do this? How should I do this? And her being very helpful. So thank you all to that. And just thank you to library staff. And consistently amazed with how above and beyond they go every time I go into the library. So thank you to all of you.
I'm still learning, and this was a good meeting, and I want to say I've particularly been happy about having a team member that I'm able to interact with. I think it's probably the best part of the whole committee or board, sorry.
Since we're going down the line, I have to echo those comments. This could potentially be my last meeting as well. And I just can't thank you guys enough for how much I've learned from each and every one of you and how just respectful I think everybody has been through the process, and everybody's clearly dedicated to making the small library community and the big, larger Ketchikan community better and better. And I just think it's a really great thing, but especially to you, Sophia, like I love watching you work. And just getting to see your fingerprints on things and leaving that impression that's going to make the next generation have it a little bit better, or be able to have a little bit more further of a starting point to do more in representing the young people in our community. I just think it's really marvelous. So in addition, I just I wrote something else down. So if it comes back to me, I might take my prerogative as the chair tonight and say something more. But for now, I'll leave it at that. And just thanks again to Pat for her work and getting that spreadsheet extra information to us. So, Sherry?
Pat, thank you for everything you do. We love you. Charlie and Jack, I hope that this isn't your guys' last meeting because you guys are so enjoyable to work with. I also hope that this isn't my last meeting, but given the Wednesday night meetings, we'll see what's on the agenda in January for the school board, and I might have to weigh my options because my term expires in March of next year. I will be reapplying for another 3 years. Hopefully the mayor likes me. If not, I'm revoking his building permit. No, but you guys are all great, and I'd like to see the same smiling faces in March, or in January, sorry, when we meet again. And good job tonight. And Sophia, so gosh, you're just great. One thing that I really do like about you is that you think ahead. And one thing that I would like to ask you to do to think ahead is when we're sending in the bylaws to Pat, If you could do the math to how your term is gonna work out and what we're gonna add in the bylaws, or if we are gonna add something in the bylaws about how we're gonna, at our organizational meeting in January, making the meeting, maybe come up with a fancy worded, because you're much more articulate than I, about maybe making sure that meeting in July is scheduled after the teen representative is sworn in. That's just a thought that I had after everybody already got done talking. So that's all I got. Thank you guys. It's bedtime.
I already shared a little bit about my appreciation for the presentations, but the couple that I have seen, I think Amy was the last one that I saw, and then Lisa Pearson. I frequent the library for my child, but I had this like epiphany that I was like, oh, I could get some interior design books and not just like get that on my feed. Like there's just the things that we learn here just continue to impress me about what our community has to offer and making this place a good place to live, work, play. So appreciate that. Appreciate the opportunity for us to hear about that, and hopefully the community to hear about that. Thank you for the children's book sale. I am so disappointed. I was out of town last week for work, so I missed your sales. But
It's on the 18th.
The children's book sale, I will be coming to, or my son will with his wallet. And so I really appreciate that. And then, Sophia, I'm sorry, we're laying it on you. But I truly have been so impressed, and not just here. I've seen you speak elsewhere, and that's been just really cool. And you give us old folks such hope, and I think that that's a really cool thing. Is that you're providing this multi-way communication, not just like back to your peers, but you're relaying stuff to us that we would not get otherwise. And I think that's super valuable. And you're doing that in multiple avenues, not just in this space. So thank you for doing that work. I know you have homework. I know you have other activities. So thank you for being here and continuing to do that. And really, really thrilled to have been able to work alongside you.
Sophia. No, I want to thank the Friends of the Library for the enormous effort, not only for the annual book sale, but throughout the year, and answering some of the questions you've had about how you respond to people's requests and interests, having a volunteer jump into a dumpster to retrieve military history books. I mean, that's a real act of service, and that's real dedication. And I salute you for those efforts, and thank you for that work. Thank you, as always, to the staff. I do, as has been mentioned, I really do appreciate these presentations, because you don't get a better sense of nuance for the operations of a division until you hear from the people that are doing the work. And for someone who's been doing the work for a quarter century plus, which is so amazing, and just what a resource. And she's never allowed to retire.
Yeah, tell her that.
It's super beneficial, I think, to us as a board and the public at large. And I hope anybody who might watch these meetings or hear notes about them take the opportunity to learn about what our city employees do. I was especially grateful to Ms. Pearson for her details about the challenges she's faced with respect to purchasing power for books in particular, because I know that budget time is always, things get a little titchy. And that has been an area of the library's budget that I know in recent years has been scrutinized, and fortunately has not been further reduced. But I think having that math in full view helps us articulate why it's so important that our librarians should be able to have the resources they need to get the resources we want as a community.
You're here.
Okay. You guys said so many great things. I ditto that. So we brought up travel and about how important it was for professional development. And I'm going to talk about it again, because it's like, it was a big chapter, as going to the arts conference, and half of it was libraries. It was about museums and libraries. And when I came back from that, I was really invigorated to be involved and to understand things better. And so I turned to the comprehensive plan, and I have taken that on as my personal hill to die on. And I was horrified. I was so saddened. Arts is mentioned once. The library is not mentioned at all. And so I would say we all wear different hats in this community. Everyone here is involved in so many things that we take information from the public and come here and then it goes to city council. But I think we should also look in ways that we can support the library and advocate in that sense on all the other departments and committees and boards and things as library advisory board members. That might be something that would be very beneficial, because the last planning commission meeting, they took 0 input from the public, from all the 250 comments that they had. It was not even discussed. So I think that we could really support the plan and other committees as library advisory board members. And then, yeah, and we'll end on a good note. So I'm really saddened that you guys might be your last one. I hope you come back, because it's been amazing to learn from you guys and your ability to be elected officials, because this, what I started, it was very much casual. And so I am learning how to do things better, and I appreciate it so much.
I have to take my extra minute, but we'll get out of here quickly. I really appreciate, you bringing up the comp plan. That is a huge desire of mine to see that come to fruition. And I too was very saddened by what was produced. And so it is very important, if you have comments about the library or just the future of Ketchikan in general and what that looks like, please, like, we're getting ready to start going through that process on the assembly side. And they informed us, because I had comments too, and I was like, why aren't you changing anything? And they said, well, because that's just not the process at this point. Like, at this point, the planning commission, they're going to make recommendations, and then ultimately it's going to land on the assembly's desk. Yeah.
So I was shocked by that. So the very first time the open public got to make a comment, they had a thing at the rec center. There was over 250 comments. There were 60 comments online, and then it went to the planning commission, and then everyone said, well, it is what it is. And that was it. So the community had 200 recommendations and complaints about the product. And it was the first time they got to look at it. And when it got to the meeting, they just said, well, we're here now. And I was just horrified that nobody stood up and said that, like, they left out the arts community, they left out the nonprofits, they left out the creative economy, they left out a huge mess. I mean, just pages and pages of comments.
I think the website is kgbcomplan.com.
They're not taking any more comments.
They're not taking more comments, but if you want to go and review what is there, you can still go to the kgbcomplan.com, and you can email me, and I will gladly escalate those comments. I'm Charlie A at kgbak.us. Because I think that this is really, really important. And just as a side personal note, these are my comments only. As I've watched these studies and these things come out on a governmental level, I've been disappointed again and again and again. And I was so excited for the housing study that turned out to be a total disappointment. I was so excited for the comp plan, which I'm not going to say is a total disappointment yet, because we still have opportunities to modify it.
They spelled places in Ketchikan wrong.
I understand. We still have opportunities to change that document. And so now's the time. So I really appreciate bringing that up, Nina, because it would have gone missing. So I have 2 other things, but Sophia wants to jump in, and I really want to hear from you.
Can I just ask a quick question? So you said there's still, you can make comments on that. Is there a meeting that will be discussed at? Is there a direct person we should reach out to for comments, concerns?
Please feel free to email me, or you can send the comments to the planning director. I believe it's planning@kgbak.us. Because this is it. This is the last round. Thank you. KGB. Yeah, it does say that. I really appreciate the side comments over here. I wish everyone in the public could see the awesome staff keeping us in line over here. The Ketchikan Gateway Borough website does have that information, and this is kind of it. Like, it's gonna go before the assembly at least 2, if not 3 times, where comments can be made, and we have the power as the assembly to alter that document, is my understanding. Yes, please send in comments, and I expect that's basically going to come out after the election, so it'll be after the October 20th. It'll be November, December, and city's going to be going into their budget season. So I forgot to also mention a big thank you to Pat. She gave me a tour of the library, and I think that was since the last meeting.
I think it was.
And that it was just a great tour. So if I know you'll spend a lot of time in the library, but I got to see some things about the library I didn't know. Like I forgot about the puzzles and the seed category catalog thing. You can go get seeds from the library. So there were some just really cool features that I think the library has that I think the public forgets. You know, you send out the meme or you put out the notice once a year, and people don't necessarily remember that when it comes time to fill that need. So I just encourage everybody to go check out the library. Appreciate the comments on the building tonight. And then also a final thank you to Rebecca Brown, because she also came to the Borough Assembly and did her presentation that she did for us before the assembly. And that was very well received. You know, as much as we all love these presentations, I think they did as well. So congratulations on the new vehicle. Hopefully that keeps Rebecca rolling.
Yeah.
And that's all I've got for tonight. Thank you all for your patience with me, and entertain a motion to.
I will move to
Or-
adjourn.
or-
There's one other item
Oh,
of business.
it's
I'd
future
like to open
business.
for Comments.
Oh, thank you.
Can we
That-
table?
And we already
We
have
did
one,
that.
but it's an open call for future agenda. items.
Future agenda items. My only thought was, I don't know how to do it appropriately. Just if we make a motion to appeal, have a business item to appeal to the mayor to extend the teen position until July of 2026. Would that be an appropriate way to handle that?
So
Okay. I would ask that we have a meeting agenda item to request the mayor continue the current teen appointment
Okay,
until the next one starts per the item we decided tonight.
cool. Okay.
Ask a question on that line.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I be exempted from the vote on that? Is that like something?
Oh, recuse yourself?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can do that. Okay.
That's a great way to stay out of the conflicts of interest. This is why we're so excited about what you're doing, lady. Any other future agenda items? Other than we didn't talk about?
There's
Okay.
this grants thing and then the bylaws. Did
Mhm.
you add two things? So the work
Yes.
session for the bylaws
And
and then
then the actual,
the actual
item.
actionable
Yeah.
actions
yes,
for the bylaws.
yes.
Temporarily named bylaws.
The unauthorized.
Motion to adjourn.
second.
Any objection? We are adjourned.